sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill. Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English.
Good morning, Cayman. Rise and shine. How are you guys doing? Oh my goodness. Trying to fix up my little situation here this morning. Good morning to everyone. Well, as you can see, I still got a frog in my throat. I feel like it's getting a little bit better. We'll get there. It ain't stopping the show, so there you go. So good morning to everyone. Happy Monday. It is Monday, August the 1st. I feel like we need to have a little party up in here. Don't worry, we got some stuff coming for you. You know, the month of August is an extra special month. And why? Well, you guys should know this already. It is not only my birthday month, but it's also Gianna's birthday month. Woohoo! Where's my little... Yes. So we are going to have lots of fun. Well, we have lots of fun all the time anyway. But August is definitely an extra special month, I think, for all of us, right? Just go along with me. So I got some bad news and I got some good news. Do I have good news? I guess there's always good news. Which would you like to hear first this morning? The bad news or the good news? All right, I tell you what. I'm going to tell you guys. The bad news is I did not win the $1 million on Friday. Well, that's probably a bit of good news as well, mixed in there. That means that not much changes for any of us. And we just continue living this wonderful life that we have and being so incredibly thankful for it. So, I'm okay. So some of you may have noticed that there was no show this morning, no pre-show, I should say, the news that we do over at 106. So Blake was having some technical issues with the computer over there. So, you know, these things happen, folks. You've always got to be flexible in this world. You'll not get far anymore if you're too rigid of a person. And, you know, if you've got one of those personalities that's like super rigid, like you like things like precise and you got to have things a certain way. And it's like, listen, we now live in the 21st century. And unfortunately, the rigidity of it all just doesn't really work out for you. So hopefully, if you've got one of those personalities, it doesn't stress you out too much and you're able to just go with the flow, because going with the flow is super, super important. Yeah, it is what it is. All right. So let's see who is here with us this morning before we start doing our Monday Rewind and getting into, are my volumes okay? I'm going to turn up my volume just a little bit on the microphone. Let's get into the Monday Rewind show and talk about all the great things, folks, that we have got going on around here. So let me just see here now. So let us say good morning to Miss Vernita. She was up early from 6:30.
Automatic brightness off.
Oh gosh, why is this thing talking to me? She was up from 6:30 this morning, sending her morning greetings. Good morning to Diamond Princess. How are you? She says, everyone have a blessed week. Good morning, Marshall. How you doing? Miss Betty is here. So there was a single winner for that big lottery, and it was someone in Illinois, I believe it was. So congratulations to that individual, whoever you are. Your life has really taken a turn for hopefully the positive. Betty is here with us. She says, thank God for one more day. Good morning, Olivia. Sonia is here. Good morning to you, my love. We've got Jeanette. Good morning to you. Louis joining us from Detroit. Miss Sue is here right from Savannah. Felicia, Arlene, Miss Morna from Prospect says happy August the 1st. And it is going to be a wonderful month. After all, like I said, it's our birthday month around here. I got my Waffle Monkey mug. Go by and see the guys over at Waffle Monkey. Order yourself something for breakfast or lunch. You know, they have lots of interesting things on the menu over there. Good morning, Miss Sue. You're not late, honey. You're just in time. Good morning to Wee Wee. Miss Iva is here. Miss Darlene Manzanares joining us from the UK. She says, good morning, world. Paul is here. Paul Bermuda. I got to make sure I pronounce that right because otherwise Soka's going to be messaging me. It's Bermuda. Oh, she always says that I emphasize it differently in the second syllable. Oh, gosh, Soka kills me with her. She's like walking around with a virtual whip that she's going to slap us with if we don't pronounce things just right. Aliano, good morning to you. Charlene is here. Siobhan joining us as well. Says, hello, August. And it is here. August has more birthdays in it than any other month of the year. I believe that's still correct. It used to be. The busiest month for people having birth is definitely in the month of August. So my daughter is the 9th of August. So that's next week, Tuesday. I was kind of wondering, you know, she was supposed to be a September baby, but she actually came early. And then at one point I'm like, ooh, might she actually come like really close to my birthday? So she still gave me about 9 days out or so from my birthday. But close enough where I'll probably never really have another party again for myself. So it's all about her, right? Good morning to Charlene. How are you? We're going to talk about, we had a few losses, unfortunately, over the weekend. Jasara is here. James is here. Good morning to Everton. He's talking about the parade over the weekend. We'll talk about that here in a second as well. Blissful Powell. Paul says you got it right. Oh, Lord. I feel like if I say it too many times, I'm going to get it wrong. Good morning to Miss Mia. And Charlene is here. And Charlene says August and September, I think. Yeah. I think it's kind of August, but maybe September is the second close or something. I don't know. All right. Where do we begin? So let's recap the weekend a little bit. I had a very full weekend, actually. I feel like I did a lot, although maybe I didn't really do a lot. It's all in my brain. But listen, here's what happened. On Friday, I'm only going to tell you about the memorable parts of my weekend. So on Friday, I'm minding my own business. Took my daughter to swimming. You know, I told you guys during this summer, she is doing an intense swimming camp, which means that every single day, Monday to Friday, she's going to swimming lessons. So she's kind of at that age now. I really need to get her swimming. And, you know, we live in the Cayman Islands, folks. We're surrounded by a body of water because we're an island. And we are also surrounded by tons of pools. And kids love pools. Every time they see a pool, they feel like, oh, I can jump in. And I'm like, nope, you can't jump in unless you know how to swim. And kids and sometimes even adults don't recognize the dangers involved in really not knowing how to swim properly. So this is a problem. And I feel like the older or the younger you introduce children to the water, the better off for them. Honestly, I should have been doing this since she was like 6 months. Like, you know, she would go in and we take her to the beach, everything like that, but not really being structured with a swimming plan. And so I do kind of feel like that's totally my fault and I should have been doing it earlier. But as they say, never too late to learn. And, you know, she's only 5 now. So we've got her in there and she enjoys the water. She's just a little apprehensive, like about certain things. Like she's like, oh, I don't want to get, you know, she doesn't mind getting her hair wet. Like she doesn't worry about anything like that. But like if it gets in her eyes and I'm like, well, that's okay. It's not going to kill you if it gets in your eyes. So she's in a wonderful swim program this summer. And so, so we went swimming. So I pick her up from school. We take her to swimming. It's only half an hour. I wish it was like an hour long because it takes her a good 15 minutes to kind of work up to where she needs to be to really start to focus, right? So anyway, we went back And then when we went back, I was taking her back to school, and somehow I don't really know how it happened. Like I said, I was just walking, minding my own business, and then somehow I fell, like literally fell flat. I couldn't believe it. I was in a state of shock, and my daughter was like, like she couldn't believe it either. So it's a little weird what happened. I think I twisted my left foot and just lost my balance. And there wasn't really anything there necessarily that I fell on, or because there is a little trench. And she's like, "Oh, did you like fall into that?" And I'm like, "No, it was just, I don't know. I fell, and it was a hard fall." Okay. And so I my naturally, your body reflexes are very, very fast. So I feel like my hands just did what they needed to do. And so they're a little bit sore. My thumb was like bruised a little bit from like bracing the fall because I literally fell flat. And then yeah, my um right hand, my left hand was a bit more sore, but then my right like wrist and into the arm like felt a little bit sore as well. So right afterwards, I could feel like probably just the tendons, they're still sore. Felt a bit strained. And at one point, I was trying to pick up my phone with my right hand. I actually had to drop it because there was like a shooting pain through my right arm. So yes, I got a little bit knocked up. Nothing major. I could feel a bruise on my it's still very much there on my left, no, my right thigh. So that's still there to the touch. Like I can really feel like a little knotted area there. And so, yeah, I took a tumble. And when something like this happens in front of kids, I have to tell you, your concern is not even for yourself. You're like, okay, you don't want to like over, like, I don't even remember if I said anything. I might have said, oh, the S word, like, oh shit. But I don't remember. And then my daughter was like, "Mom, are you okay?" And she went and picked up the keys because I had the keys in my pocket for the car and they went flying all over the place. So I didn't even have my phone in my hand. So I can't even say that I was like being distracted by the phone. It wasn't anything like that. I literally just twisted my ankle and took a tumble. So she was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then I just got up and took her, made her go and of course limp back to the car. So later on in the afternoon, her teacher messaged me and she's like, "Gianna said you fell and she's really worried." And I said, "Oh yeah, tell her I'm fine, nothing to worry about." Because I knew that she would be like, "What did I just saw?" sort of thing. When kids see something a little bit traumatic, they're kind of wondering what's going on. So that was my Friday. So I came home on Friday and kind of just took it easy. And Saturday, I had a full day schedule, and this was another reason I wanted to kind of get to bed early and everything. Because 7:30 in the morning, I went to Health City and I was doing like a fasting thing. I need to do all my blood work, and I need to grab my folder actually after the maybe I'll go do that now because I do want to talk about the findings from my Health City experience. Because listen, folks, I have a 50 by 50 plan, which means my aim is to lose 50 pounds by my 50th birthday, which is going to be August of next year. So the August of next year is the big 50. So we are getting ready with a complete overhaul of health and wellness. And this means everything, folks. Back on the exercise train, obviously improving the diet. Mental health is extremely important. So, hey, we got to do meditation, whatever, see a therapist. I'm not sure what I need. All of that is going to be incorporated. I feel like I'm going to be my own life coach here in a minute. But I want to bring you guys on this journey because this is going to be really, really super exciting for me. And I felt like I needed to have a starting point. Like you need to know what your numbers are, regardless. But when you're wanting to undertake a particular goal, having a good idea of exactly where you are, I think is a fantastic idea. So on Saturday, I went to Health City and we did, oh my God, everything on the list. Like I'll tell you guys, like I have a folder with all the results and everything. So I'm going to go through all that with you all, but it was a lot. So I was there until like 1:30 for like 6 hours doing everything. It took a little bit longer for me because we we're also doing it as like a docu-series. So we were documenting the whole thing. And I swear to you, I felt like I saw every single person in that hospital in terms of testing. And it was like we were all over the place. So I'll tell you those details in a second, but I'm super excited about this journey because I did get some numbers that really indicate to me that I need to now stop talking about this and really start doing something. And this is for real. So when we talk about those numbers, I'll explain to you exactly what that means. So good morning to Miss Mia. She's joining us from the Philippines. Omeria is here. She says, good morning, everyone. Have a productive weekday. Yes, Mr. Arlene says August has the most birthdays. Yay. Sarah is here. Good morning. Joining us from Cayman Brack, looks like. Beautiful. What's the vibe like, Sarah, on Cayman Brack? I know a lot of people are very pensive these days, waiting on some additional information on that case there. Over the weekend, the rumors continued to fly about that, but nothing, no substantive development as far as I'm aware. Yeah. Vlogtions, good morning to you. Good morning to KK. And good morning to Siobhan, Diamond Princess. Sorry, said Siobhan Stewart graduation. Somebody had a graduation. All right, folks. So, like I said, this cold is like really lingering a lot longer than I thought it would. It's one of those, apparently. Everybody who's had it, it's like, yeah, it's going to be with you for like 3 or 4 weeks. And, the voice is a little bit better. The coughing has subsided, but it's still there. So in the middle of the night, probably like 2 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with a coughing fit that had me running to the bathroom. And so I've been trying to drink a lot more water, which I need to be drinking anyway. So I guess that's good. And yeah, just trying to keep hydrated. So good morning, Miss Elizabeth. She's joining us from the Bay Islands. 936-2626 is the telephone number. Remember that you can call us via WhatsApp or on a straight line call as well. So I think we figured out the issue on Friday that we were having with the straight line calls. We just basically had to restart our board. And speaking of the board, I thought I'd add a little photo here of kind of what it looks like. So this is some of the stuff that allows me to be fancy in the morning with some of the things that we do, but this really helps to control like all the audio and stuff. And I had my little on-air sign for a while, and I kept trying to figure out where I was going to put it. Like I was going to put it in the back, and then like you couldn't really see it. So this morning it just occurred to me, just take it right here by the board, and actually have a second camera, which you can see the board. So there you go. That's it. That's it. Yeah. All right, folks. Let's talk about some other things that transpired over the weekend. So unfortunately, the Cayman community is mourning. We have lost 2 senior persons in the community. So good morning to Miss Shirley and Miss Barbara and Miss Beulah. Strong Will is here. Yeah, you got to be careful when you're walking, Shell. You just never know when you have 2 left feet, especially. But oh my gosh, this is such a bit of sad news. So we had, Sunday morning, I woke up. Like I said, Friday was a really full day for me. So I didn't do too much on Saturday. Later on Saturday, I kind of just had like some lunch, and then I came home and just like vegged out at home, took it easy, whatever. I kind of went to bed relatively early. I was feeling like I was just really, really exhausted and tired on Saturday. So I didn't push it. When my daughter went to bed, I pretty much went to bed with her like around 8:30 or so. And yeah, we snoozed off. So when I woke up on Sunday morning, I'm getting messages and phone calls that there was an accident in South Sound. And I was like, what? And then I got a call from a resident of East End, and she was like, Sandy, this is what's going on. And I was really shocked, actually, and surprised to hear that there had been a fatality, and the victim of that fatality was an older lady who just happens to be one of my neighbors, really. She lives very, very in close proximity. And so this was incredibly sad news, right? So Miss Margaret Rose Garcia, unfortunately, passed away after being involved in an accident. And I think the worst part of the story is that on Saturday, She was celebrating the wedding of her one and only daughter, Deidre. And I was like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. I said, what? Um, so this is really, I mean, our condolences to the Garcia family. I think most of us either know her. Apparently, she was a teacher. I mean, she's wouldn't have taught me, obviously. But a lot of you who probably maybe a little bit older had her as a teacher. And so this is just a sad day for everyone. There's a lot of people in the East End community who would have been mourning that loss, which happened right after midnight on Saturday evening. So from the sounds of it, and from what I have been able to ascertain, folks, it was just a freak accident, I guess. Her husband was driving, as the details that we understand, and they were discussing in the vehicle, apparently going back to pick up her car, which was at a hotel. I guess they probably, people go to the hotel and they get dressed and do whatever. I don't know the exact venue for the wedding or the reception, but they were coming back, I guess, from that, and they were discussing going then to go pick up her car. Do they pick it up? Do they leave it overnight and then go for it in the morning? You guys know how this works. You go to an event and you might end up taking two cars initially, and then you consolidate. And the new in-laws were actually in the back seat, so they are also in the hospital. So yes, yeah, unbelievable, quite honestly. And so we do extend our condolences to the family. Jeez, it's just somebody said to me that tragic events seem to be um it's almost like they go after you know joyous events or surrounding like birthdays and weddings and celebrations and Christmases and whatever. And I said, well, the way I see it is that misfortune, tragedy, whatever you want to call it, has no filter. It doesn't discriminate. So it doesn't care that you just celebrated an absolutely beautiful day with your only daughter getting married. It doesn't care that it's somebody's birthday or that it is, all these other things. I mean, I guess, we can always try to look for the positive in these things, and that, you know, if it was her time, it was her time. But the very last thing that she got to do was enjoy a celebratory event with her daughter. And so, I'm sure no mother wants anything greater than that, really. So I don't know what else to say on that one. It was really quite shocking and unbelievable. So yeah, the in-laws apparently were sitting in the back seat, and they remain hospitalized with some additional injuries. I don't know quite how severe those injuries are, but um, Mr. Garcia had some injuries, but nothing life-threatening, so he was able to come out of the hospital. So I'm sure an investigation will be underway as it happens with these tragic events. So, as if that wasn't bad enough, then within short order, I started to receive other messages from people who were like, did you hear that Mr. Harley had a heart attack? And I was like, what? And they said, yeah, Miss Rose Hurlston's husband. And by the way, a lot of people are asking, they were trying to remember what Miss Margaret Rose looks like. This is her. Beautiful. Yeah. And so some people are saying to me that, they were just at the wedding. And I think the day before or something, they were at some other funeral or something as well. But, the community is just, I mean, look how beautiful she looked, right? She just looked absolutely gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Right. So the celebration I see here was actually at Grand Ole House. So the reception and stuff. My goodness. Mm-mm-mm. There's so many places in South Sound that I feel like you just have to be very, very careful driving. And that's one area that unfortunately has been quite accident prone, actually. So yeah, so after that, quite a few people were messaging me saying, you know, that they heard that Mr. Harley had passed away. And I thought, oh my gosh. I think more people know he was oftentimes a very quiet and reserved man. So I think a lot of people probably knew or know his wife, Rose Hurlston, more because, she's got such an amazing personality, full of life and good for a good laugh. She's always making jokes and stuff on even social media. You see her personality really emerges when you have an opportunity to be her friend, like on Facebook and stuff like that. And so I could not believe it. People said he had a heart attack. I was like, a heart attack. And this is why I want to talk about a little bit about what I was doing on Saturday, because, you just never know. You assume that everyone, has a good ticker, a good heart by looking at them. But gosh, you cannot look at someone and tell what condition of their heart is. And that's why if you start to show any symptoms and you go to the hospital, they need to know what to look for. And, anything to do with the heart can be very, very tricky because heart attacks do not always, they don't always, if you get a warning sign, which sometimes you don't, sometimes it's just a massive heart attack and that's it. But they don't always manifest themselves as what you would think. So it's not always that pain in the heart that, oh my God, I'm going to have a heart attack. It's not that the Sanford and Sons thing where every day he'd wake up and be like, oh, my chest pains. The pain can, especially for women, but even men, the pain can come in different forms. So, physicians are supposed to know um, what they should be looking for. And they should know that it's not always something that will manifest itself in a particular way. Sometimes it's shoulder pain. Sometimes it manifests itself as back pain and other things like that. And so this is where, again, they're the experts and they should know what to look for. 68 years old. He went to the hospital apparently on Saturday. And I don't know what kind of checks they did, but it doesn't seem like they really did anything with his heart. Gave him some kind of shot, probably for pain, and sent him home after 4 hours. So, I understand that he wasn't feeling any better, but he also was hesitant to go back to the hospital because, he was kind of like, why bother? I just spent 4 hours there. They gave me a shot and it hasn't helped. And when you have something like back pain, you think, oh, okay, maybe I just pulled a muscle or, you're not sure what it is. But if you've had pain and you've gone to a physician and you didn't get any relief, the last thing you want to do is to be bothered again when you're not feeling well. Like this is completely normal. And in fact, even during COVID, when my husband first got tested for COVID, he spent so much time at the hospital waiting for a test that he literally got frustrated and left because we kind of thought he wasn't feeling well. We kind of thought maybe he'd gotten COVID. Coworker had COVID. It's like, and he got frustrated and left. And then he ended up going to, and I said, well, I think you really need to get tested. And so he ended up going to, I think it was the Health City Clinic at Camana Bay, got through in a much shorter time and sure enough tested positive for COVID, right? But to convince him to stay at the HSA after he'd been there for hours and the A&E, and the A&E wasn't moving and nobody was getting called. And, sometimes we don't appreciate necessarily what's happening in the background. I know when you're sick, you probably don't even care what's happening in the back area. You're just like, why is it that no one is even being called? Like, not a single, in 2, 3, 4 hours, you don't see any movement in the A&E and you're like, what's going on back there? Sometimes they are busy, with maybe an ambulatory emergency that came in or whatever, and you just don't know that. And it's frustrating to just sit there and wait and wait and wait. When it's something to do with the heart, folks, you don't always have the luxury of time being on your side. The heart, strokes. And we've heard of these stories before where physicians misdiagnosed someone or underestimated exactly what was going on. So you go in there and they send you away And then later on, you end up dropping dead of a major stroke, a heart attack, something like that. And you think, could they have not done the necessary tests? So one of the things that I did for my executive check is I did the one that is geared towards the cardiac executive check, because you get into that age now where the heart starts to probably exhibit your lifestyle a little bit. And so um, I found out a lot, like I said, which I'll be sharing with all of you. But I just wanted to extend our condolences to Miss Rose and her children. And he was always a nice man. I've had the opportunity to interact with him just a little bit. For some time, Miss Rose, was a customer of mine, and he would come in and pay the bill. And he was just always such a pleasant guy. He didn't really talk. He just seems like he was always stress free, which you can never assume that that's the case, but that was always the vibe that he gave off, right? So our condolences again to these families, Caymanian families. And he's also, I understand, got connections, or he's from East End. So the East End community is definitely mourning. My apologies. The East End community is definitely mourning, over the weekend over these two losses. hmm So, the community is, I feel like the community becomes very small once we lose people, because everybody were like messaging and like, oh my gosh, yes, I know him. I know Miss Rose. I know two of the kids. One daughter, I believe she went away to Canada a little while ago. Um, so it's a tough time. So again, let's just keep these families in our prayers and thoughts, and surround them with as much positivity as we can during these difficult times. But yeah, these things, it's like my father-in-law, he was having shoulder pain, and again, didn't recognize that necessarily as a heart attack or anything related to the heart. And he was actually in the hospital in Jamaica. And I think that morning they were actually going to take him to start doing some heart related stuff, but he had been exhibiting some symptoms for a little bit. And, my one of my sister-in-laws is actually a nurse, and she does critical care. And she was like, you guys need to take this seriously and take him to the hospital and have it checked out, have his EKG and this and that. And, sometimes older people can be stubborn as well. Oh no, it's just a little shoulder neck pain. I don't know what it is and whatever. And then I think as it got worse and he was finally admitted to the hospital, but then by that point, it was a little bit too late. And he was in the hospital, but he had a major heart attack and just didn't make it. So, yeah, these are, and I'll tell you about, Ms. Sue says they always need to do an EKG in people. And I'll tell you about all the heart related things that I actually had done at Health City and how quickly they were able to get results. And I think having the amazing equipment and obviously the staff that can operate it and you know, getting results as quickly as possible can really, really be life saving as well. And so I see some of your comments about the HSA. I understand that an investigation is being launched into the situation. They will be doing an autopsy on him with some results. And, every single time an event like this happens, if you are a family member, you need to ensure that you don't just talk about it amongst each other, but you actually speak to Ms. Lizette Yearwood, who's CEO of the HSA, and you let her know that there should be a reporting of these things, essentially is what I'm saying. There has to be some reporting protocol. Paperwork should be filled out. And I think there has to be record keeping on how many times this type of thing is happening. Like how many times does somebody go to the HSA, complain of one thing, given a shot, sent home, and then they die of a heart attack or stroke or whatever. And then you need to start monitoring these things with a view to who are the attending physicians. And, reviewing each and every case with those physicians to say, why would you send this person home if they were exhibiting these symptoms? Why didn't you, like, I kind of feel like when you're in a heart attack can happen to anyone, by the way, let's be very, very clear, right? But I do feel like when you're in a certain age group where your chances of having a coronary event increases significantly, there kind of are some tests, and I know that these things are not cheap, but there are some tests that should be very, very standard when you go into the hospital to look for any blocks in the arteries and that sort of thing. It reminds me of another guy that I know. Um, one night a couple months back, and I think he's only like 39 years old. He's a young guy, relatively speaking. So the dog woke him up. Listen to this story. The dog woke him up and he was having chest pains, but it was actually the dog that barked and woke him up. And he told his wife, he's like, "Oh my God, I don't really feel good. And this time it's like in my chest, right?" So they decide that they're going to take him to the hospital. They go to Shetty. So they call his mom. I think he might be her only child, even. So they called his mom and they said, "Listen, we need you to come. The grandkids are sleeping or whatever. Come and stay with them. We need to go to the emergency room at Shetty, at Health City immediately because we think he's having a heart attack." And so the mom rushes. This is like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. She rushes out of her bed, rushes to their residence, and they leave with him. I don't know exactly where they live, but I feel like it's maybe Savannah, Newlands. It wasn't like that far necessarily. It's not like they were all the way in West Bay, because again, time can be of the essence, right? So they go to Health City, and by the time they get there and they start running all the tests and stuff, sure enough, he is having a major coronary event. And they say to him at the age of 39, listen to this. They say to him, "Young man, he had 99% blockage in one major artery going to the heart." And so they say to him, "This is what we call the widowmaker. Normally, when you have this in this particular artery, you are a dead man." They said, "You are so fortunate that you got here when you did," and they were able to perform surgery. And I'm sure they probably did, I don't know what they did, quadruple bypass or put a stent in or whatever it is that they do these days, right? And they were able to perform surgery, emergency surgery on him immediately and save his life. This is a 39-year-old young man with kids, young kids, and a wife. And he's thinking, "Oh, my life is just getting started, honey chill. We ain't going nowhere yet." And, they're like, they said, "Listen, this is serious. This is the widowmaker. Like, your wife is supposed to be a widow right now." But thankfully, he got there on time, as it would turn out. The right physicians, everybody was on the ball, and they were able to save his life. Now, of course, with all of this comes lifestyle changes. And I want to say that a lot of us, like, people look at, this person doesn't smoke, they don't drink, da 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 da. But you don't know, even so-called skinny people, they might be skinny, like they look skinny, but some of them have the worst diets in the world. They're not skinny for lack of not trying to destroy it with a bad diet. They might just have the super skinny gene that means that no matter what they eat, they're always going to be in the skinny side. So, you walk around saying, "Oh, well, they're not obese," because obesity is one of your risk factors, right? So they may have the benefit of not being obese. Yay. Where's my little applause button? Good for them. I need to shorten that one. Good for them, but it doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean much of anything, because the inside, what's showing on the inside and the habits that you walk around with can be all the wrong things. You know what I mean? Skinny people have what they call, just like the rest of us, visceral fat. And that's the fat, a lot of it's abdominal, that actually surrounds your major organs, that is really, really bad for you. And if you have a lot of visceral fat, you get the fatty liver and all these things. These are indications that you got some health problems. So the takeaway, folks, is I want all of you to really seriously consider. I don't care if you're 35, 25, 40, you kind of need a benchmark to say, "Okay, I'm 25. Listen, when you're in your 20s, you feel like you're invincible. You can jump off a building and fly and do whatever the hell you want," although you really can't. Our people in their 20s are losing their lives on the streets to gun violence and all this other foolishness. But you kind of feel like you have time on your side. that there's certain things that you don't have to worry about yet. But of course, lifelong habits. Is that the word I'm looking for? Being what they are always going to find a way of sneaking up on you. Come. So when they sneak up on you, folks, you have to know that what that really means is that, one day you are going to wake up in your 40s and be like, oh, darn, I've been drinking and partying all my life. And now, ooh, kind of feeling like I'm an older 45, you know? And all of it contributes to your overall health. So everything, folks, from smoking, one of the worst habits in the world. Oh, yeah, smoking does so much to your body, including putting plaque all over the place. Listen, if you are a smoker, and I've got friends who are smokers, it is the single worst thing that you can do to your health. And I know it's a bad habit. My father was a smoker. Unfortunately, he was a once a day cigarette smoker. And I'm like, why? What what's the point? I never understood it. But I know that it's a bad habit. And when you do certain things like you drink, you drink and smoke, like some people do certain things together, right? But yes, it is even worse than being obese. And I know a lot of people don't believe me when I say that, but it really is. But obesity is no fun either. So for those of us who carrying on extra weight, we need to get on it and we need to do better. So I'm just going to quickly show you guys some of my stuff, right? So these are all the reports and stuff that I got from my Health City executive check on Saturday. All I can tell you is they probed, prodded, I shouldn't say punch because I guess they didn't really punch me, but they did everything under the sun. Big shout out to Shalini and Joseph, who are they're part of like the nurses, the intake nurses, and they were amazing because they walk you through to every single department, make sure that you're taken care of, and you go from like one department to the next. And can I tell you, it included, I'm gonna tell you some of what I did on Saturday included because they did a lot of stuff, right? So this is the executive health check. So the one that, again, just because of my age, and I've known certain things, I'm going to tell you certain things here in a second that I've known for a little while that I needed to focus on. So some of this was not really a surprise to me. There was one thing that was a surprise. And I'll tell you what that is here in a second that I didn't really expect. And I thought, this is exactly why you do these things because my gosh, you just never know, right? Let me find it. I'm going to tell you what's included. So yeah, so I did let me see. Okay, here we go. All right. So I did the cardiac one. So I looked at all the options that were available for the executive health check. Now you guys will remember a couple weeks ago, well, it's been a couple months now, I'm sure. The Health City team came on the show and they were talking about they're running a special for these executive health checks. And there's several different packages that you can actually choose from, right? So this is kind of like they tell you what they are and whatever. And they were doing like a discount on these. So what I decided to do was the cardiac health check, which basically includes the executive health check. So you get all this stuff. And I also wanted to do the women's health check. So you do like your breast screening, mammogram, cardiac testing, which is a treadmill testing, abdominal ultrasound, your dietary consultation, your pap smear, and pelvic. I think I said that one already. So all the things that women need to be doing as well, right? So I did that in addition to the cardiac health check. So that included everything here. And then I did like the women's health check as a sort of add-on package. Now, it's a lot of information and I'm still divulging a lot of it, to be quite frank, but I did everything. Oh my God, so many tests, ultrasounds and blood work and the works, right? Here's my little ticker. This is what my little ticker is looking like. So this is the one where, let me see which one this is. I think this is when I'm like on the treadmill testing. So this is like, I believe that's that one. So they do like a baseline test, where they put you in the treadmill child and they tell you to start walking, then they increase it every 3 minutes or whatever. So we had multiple exams for the heart. Now, here's the good thing. There's no evidence of anything going on with my heart. Yay. So that's good. Nothing obvious. They even did like a little ultrasound of the heart or whatever. Was it an ultrasound? Yeah. And the structure of the heart is good. The muscles, the design of the heart, all that stuff looks perfectly fine. So that's the good news. Child, this is when I started to sweat a little bit. Look at how hard my little heart was starting to bloop, 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 bloop. It's like, okay, we getting a little workout here today, which we're not used to. So I did all this stuff. And this is 2.5 miles per hour. So they give you all your reports, folks, which is fantastic because then you can go away and look it over. And if you need to do further consultations, this was me at 3.4 miles per hour. And they tell you everything, what the heartbeat was per minute, how many minutes in you were, what's your percentage. I don't know if that's oxygen saturation, I would think. But anyway, honey, chill. Yeah. And then how quickly your heart rate comes back down. Afterwards, they check your blood pressure during that as well. Because, one of the interesting things about blood pressure is what causes your blood pressure to go up and how quickly it comes back down is actually one of the important things that they look for as well. I remember the first time doing that test when I was pregnant. They had you walk stairs and come back up. And then they wanted to take your blood pressure after seeing you exercise for a little bit. And then, so these are all things that physicians look for. And it tells you a lot about your fitness level and kind of where you're at, and so on. So my ECG was normal. Functional capacity was normal. My heart rate response to exercise was appropriate. My blood pressure response to exercise was normal. So they took my resting blood pressure, which was an appropriate response. And then they took it again as I was exercising. And then they saw, yes, I did do a calcium score test. Hold on, Ellery, I'm coming. So I did all of that. So they did arrhythmias, none, ST changes, none, overall impression, normal stress test. So that's a good conclusion. So good effort for tolerance, normal heart rate and BP response, no angina or anything else. So no pain or discomfort or whatever. No significant ST changes, impression, low probability of significant cardiac outcome, right? Now, this doesn't mean, and I want to be very clear about this because sometimes people go and they go, oh, this person got a full health checkup and the next day they drop down with a heart attack. Heart attacks, a good number of heart attacks simply cannot be predicted. I mean, it is like a real time. Sorry. Oh gosh, it's cold. So it's like a real time thing, right? Sometimes there are no indications that you're going to have a heart attack, except in the moment you're having it. So that was good. Now, blood work. This one as well. I think this was just the one where they scanned it. I'm trying to remember. But anyway, in the docu-series that we're doing, the documentary of all this, you actually get to sneak in as I'm having my consult with the physician. And they go through all of this information in significant detail, which I thought was phenomenal. So El Ray said, did you do the calcium score? I did. It's right here. And I don't mind sharing this with you because, folks, in order for me to go on this journey, I want you guys to keep me accountable. Every time you go out to lunch with me now, I'm putting my friends on notice, and you see me at Thai Orchid going, oh, what's for dessert today? Kick me under the table, please. Now, it doesn't mean I'm never going to have dessert ever again in my life, but I need to cut back significantly. And so for the next 6 months, we're going to have to curtail it, like really no desserts until we get a couple numbers under control. And then we can cheat every once in a while. We can treat ourselves, right? But we're not there yet. I don't need to be rewarding myself with that sticky toffee pudding. Oh God, let me think about it for a second. Sticky toffee. I'm having a food memory. My aunt is always like, Sandy, you love food so much. You have food memories. Yes, when I think about sticky toffee, I start thinking about the little sprinkled nuts on top, the delicious creamy Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Oh God. Anyway, Let me pull myself back in. So, yes, we did do the calcium scoring report, and all of these things again are important. So this is the heartbeat calcium scoring report. And again, the good news here is no calcium, so nothing to worry about there. And they give you like a little thing, health factors, clinical history, like if you've had a previous myocardial infarction, yeah, anything like that, right? So I apparently don't have to do this calcium scoring test for another 10 years since it was perfectly fine. Interesting. I know, Andrea. I'm telling y'all to go to Waffle Monkeys. But you have to know what your dietary restrictions are. I'm not telling you need to be eating Waffle Monkeys every day. Waffle Monkeys has coffee. They have other things on the menu that you can enjoy. It doesn't always have to be that waffle and chicken every single time you go, honey child. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. So listen, I do have hypertension. So after my baby, my blood pressure went up. And I think it's always been a little bit like it fluctuated over the years, right? Funny enough, during the pregnancy, that's one of the major concerns, high blood pressure, whatever, especially if you're a little bit older. And during the pregnancy, it was always really good. It was after I had the baby. And I think it was just the stress of her being a preemie, being in the NICU, the C-section, like everything in the world just kind of like stressed me out. And so I'm going to low dose 5 milligrams of what's it called again? Amlodipine, right? And I want to keep it at 5. I don't want to move up to 10. We need to keep it exactly where it is. So for risk factors, they do have on here hypertension. They don't have alcohol or anything else, pulmonary disorders or whatever. But hypertension is a risk factor for both heart-related situations and strokes. So you've got to know what your risk factors are. So again, I don't have to take that test for another 10 years. So I had a calcium score of 0. And it says that places the patient in the 0 percentile in comparison to a group of patients asymptomatic for coronary artery disease with the same age and gender. So that means that 0% of females ages 44 to 49 have calcium scores lower than the patient. So 0 is what you're aiming for. And so, of course, when they did the ultrasound and stuff of the heart, it's called what they call a multi-slice computed tomography scanner, CT scan, basically. And they determined that, everything was working as it should. Now, the important thing to note about this is it doesn't necessarily mean that you might not have plaque in your arteries. And, plaque is of concern as well. And that is something that can cause, how do they test for plaque, by the way? Do they have to physically go in there and see the plaque? But, that's something that can cause heart attacks and whatever as well. So, yeah, so we're doing good in terms of that report. They gave me a whole 5-page report on coronary artery calcification being a specific marker for coronary, atherosclerosis. The amount of calcification correlates with the severity of coronary atherosclerosis. A score of 0 implies a low likelihood of coronary obstruction, but cannot totally exclude the presence of atherosclerosis. So you might have plaque and other stuff in there, right? A high score indicates a significant plaque burden and relative risk for future cardiovascular events. It should be understood that calcification is not site-specific for stenosis, but rather indicates the extent of atherosclerosis in the coronary artery walls overall. And there's no identifiable plaque detected. Patient is advised to adhere to general guidelines on diet and exercise. So that was good, right? And they gave you all the little scans. Look at my little heart, everything right there. Okay, so heart looks good. Now, let's talk about what wasn't looking too good. That A1C number, which it's been creeping up on me for years now. And I've known about it. And I've known that, oh man, remember what my 23andMe test said about me having a 33% chance of more than normal becoming diabetic? I told y'all I wasn't really surprised by that. Well, the reason why I'm not surprised by that is because for years now, I have known that my A1C number was always like borderline, right? Higher than it should be, but not like diabetic. And these are the signs that we get. And this is why, folks, taking the time for your health, going and getting, your annual checkups done will warn you about what's coming down the pipeline. And I have been warned for a minute now. And I feel like this weekend, I got my final warning shot to say, hey, lady, you can still do something about this. This is still within your control. So don't let that A1C number continue to crop up and you do nothing about it. You now have the opportunity to actually do something. And so I'm committed as part of my 50 by 50 plan. It's not just about losing the 50 pounds to look good. I mean, who doesn't want to look good, right? You want to put on those skinny jeans and be shaking your LeBlanc and you'll be like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm sexy. That's great. But really it's about these numbers, and losing even 10, 15, 25 pounds will help bring these numbers down. So now we got to get serious with this. So my A1C number, borderline, chill. Let me see where it is. It was 6. I think 6 is like, I think it's supposed to be like under 6. But for me, it's like right on the cusp now. It used to be like 5 point something and whatever. And it's a good idea I love that they gave me all these results too, because now I can compare it to where I was 3-4 years ago. And in fact, what I'm going to do, because they said they would email me these results, I'm also going to send these results over to the HSA and ask them to put them in their system so that if anything ever happens, I need to go to the HSA. They've got the most updated information as well. Big shout out to Dr. Sandeep. Let me see what my A1C number is. So this is an area of concern because your A1C number basically is like monitoring your blood sugar level over a 3-month period of time, right? Oh yes, here we go. So this is a biochemistry. This is all the blood work now. So A1C. So normally what happens, right? My fasting blood sugar. So if you go in and you do a fasting blood sugar and you don't do an A1C, for years, my fasting blood sugar was always fine. So you fast the night before you go in, you do it before you've had anything to eat that morning. And that number for me has never been a problem. But the A1C number, which monitors it over a 3-month period of time, which is in many ways a much more accurate reflection of what's going on with your blood sugar, has always been like, that's concern, borderline prediabetes concern. This time I noticed that my A1C, my fasting blood sugar, FBS, was a little bit higher than usual. So they want it to be under 126. It was like at 131, right? So not horrible yet. And a lot of times it was even within that normal range, that 70 to 100. But when they did the A1C was elevated. So they're like, yeah, this is something that you need to be concerned about. So now 131, not good. Okay. We have, let me see here now. And, I got indication of it when I was pregnant as well. When you have to take that sugar test where they make you like take the sugary drink and then they see how quickly it comes down. My numbers struggled to come down as quickly as they could, especially with the last, I think the first 2 tests were fine. It was that last one where it should have dropped even more, that it was like a couple points off, which basically means that your body is not processing that excess glucose as quickly as it should be. And that again is an indication of what's it called? Help me out. Where are my physicians in the house? I know I got a couple. They call it resilient. What's the word, doctor? Dr. Sydney, are you in the house? Oh Lord, I'm trying to remember what they call it now. But anyway, it's like a resistance to glucose intolerant or whatever. Yeah. So that's a bit of a problem. Cholesterol and stuff was fine. Actually, my cholesterol has always been really good. At one point, my cholesterol was so low that I was like, this is weird. So LDL, they do the good, the bad cholesterol, and then they do a ratio, which the ratio is really important because you want to keep your ratio within a certain range because the ratio really demonstrates how much of the good versus the bad that you have. So everybody has good LDL, HDL, but you want to make sure that the LDL versus the HDL. Like there's a proper ratio of the good versus the bad, with the bad being as low as possible, right? So not as good as it used to be. Obviously, as you get older, your cholesterol does go up, but it's still within, I think, decent range. I had an ex-husband who had really, really high cholesterol, and he died young of a heart attack. Not surprisingly, um, he had a family history of it, as it turns out. So the very first time I remember, he had never had a cholesterol test done. And I said to him, in the States, it's so much easier. Like they have these health facilities in the mall where you can go in and just get a test done. And it was like super easy. So I remember the two of us going together, and my cholesterol was like maybe 120 at the time. This was me in my early 20s, right? So, and then he took it and his was like, oh my God, like 300 or whatever. And the nurse, because we were kind of joking around with each other. And when the nurse saw his results, she's like, listen, all jokes aside, your cholesterol is too high. And you need to go to a physician. You need to get this under control. Because if you don't, you're going to have a heart attack and die prematurely. Now, it seems like with him, a good degree of it was hereditary. Although he seemed to have been able to control it with diet, but it was really, really hard because it required a super strict diet that unfortunately was hard to maintain. But anyway, she even said to him, if you need to give blood on a regular basis to get that blood out, do that because that will help with your cholesterol. And I was like, really? Anyway, so yeah, my cholesterol has always been pretty decent. They look at your triglycerides and all this kind of stuff. So definitely the other thing that was of interest that was a little bit concerning is my uric acid, which and when the guy was doing the scan of the abdominal area, I forget which one this was exactly, but he was also talking about how I had a little bit of fatty liver. hmm So again, I believe that this also ties in somewhat um, to this particular enzyme, but you've got to be careful with the fatty liver because your liver will start to show signs of, kind of like what is going on inside the body. So they looked at my heart, my liver, my kidneys, like they literally did everything. And so I said to them, I'm not entirely, because when he said, sometimes this is related to gout. And I said, oh, I said, well, I'm not really surprised by that because my father actually suffered from gout. But this is something, again, it wasn't high, but definitely something that we need to, I mean, it was a little bit elevated, something that we just definitely need to keep an eye on going forward as well. So lots of information here, folks, that has really been useful for me to kind of see where I'm starting off. Now, what was surprising? I'll tell you what was surprising. Um, it was surprising to find out that I have a hernia. I did not know this. And so that was kind of weird. I was like, I do. And they're like, yeah. Do you ever feel anything like around your belly button, whatever? And I was like, "Mm, not that I'm aware of. Like, I've never really thought about it." And they said, okay, well, all hernias, I don't think hernias go away on their own. And sometimes they can get worse and whatever. So it's a really small one. So they said at this point, just watch it and see. But eventually you might actually have to have this hernia corrected surgically. And I was like, what? Okay, super weird. Did not know that at all, ever. I guess nobody never checked for it, or I don't know if I developed it recently, or I don't know. I don't even know how do you get a hernia? How does that work? My daughter has one and she's gonna have to have that surgically corrected. Um, so yeah, that was kind of weird. So anyway, that was surprising. What else was surprising? Just trying to remember what else I found surprising. So the A1C number wasn't surprising. I met with the nutritionist. I need to have a more detailed meeting with a dietitian or nutritionist to really kind of get it under control. So the takeaway, get on the exercise train, get back on it. You've fallen off for far too long. You got to start doing regular exercising. You got to rein in the diet, start to, remove the starch from your diet and the sweets and the potatoes and the cakes and everything else. And so lungs were good. Oh, I know what else was surprising. Apparently, there is a little bit of something on one of my kidneys, the left kidney, but they say it's nothing to be concerned about, that it's quite normal, actually. See, the doctor even drew me a little diagram of my kidneys. So I have a 1.8, I think it's centimeter of something, but it's considered some kind of Bosniak type 1 cyst or something, which isn't the kind that you need to worry about. So they said just leave it. You know, yeah. So that was it. So that was surprising. I was like, what? Something in my kidney. But this again is the kind of test that you want to do, folks. So, they do the scan. This is the ultra scan of the abdomen and pelvis. You do this with a uh, full water, and then you empty your bladder, and then they do more scanning. Now, I was always curious. I was like, why do you have the patient empty their bladder? What is that all about? So I got to ask questions. And I must tell you, the physician who was, I can't remember what his name is, who's in the radiology department, who was actually doing the scanning. As he was doing stuff, he's like, okay, I'm looking at your kidneys now. Like, it was really quite good how they took the time as they were doing it to sort of explain certain things to you. Oh, yes, Dr. Sharath Babu A, who's a consultant radiologist. So he was really, really good with telling me kind of what he was doing. So when I said to him, why do you do water and then no water? He said, well, the reason why is because number one, they want to see is after you've gone to the bathroom, whether or not you actually get rid of all of the fluid. Like if your bladders are actually empty. Because he said, as you get older, your bladder, a lot of people find that they have an issue where their bladder doesn't fully empty itself, although they think that they're done in the bathroom. I said, wow, really? And he said, yeah. They want to look out for those types of things. And then I think there's certain things that they can compare before and after, uh, you know, having one view with a full bladder and then one view without a full bladder, in terms of that particular actually looking at bladder. So no like gallstones or nothing else to worry about, but no abnormal contents of like the the bladder. But they do like a pre-void volume, which is how much is in there before you went to the bathroom, and then what it is afterwards to make sure that that's working well. So yeah, everything else, a small umbilical hernia noted with herniation of a mental fat. The defect measures 1 centimeter, no evidence of bowel obstruction. So no free fluid seen in the abdomen, both ovaries are not adequately visualized. And then I went on then to do the female stuff with Dr. Oh gosh, what's her name? So some of my results are still pending. So I'm still waiting on the mammogram and the pap smear. So Dr. Pujab, taking that from memory. Forgive me if I've gotten her name wrong. She's amazing. I love her. Remember she came on the program and she was talking about women's issues and stuff. And oh, sorry. And everybody loved her. All the women were like, "Oh, when are you gonna have her back on?" So she did the women's check, pap smear, and pelvic exam, breast screening. There was another section that she did the mammogram, and so we went over a lot of stuff with her as well. And she was very, very um, well versed, obviously in her field, and answered a lot of questions and took a little bit of historical information. So thank you, DJ Trucking. Yes, insulin resistance was the words I was looking for. So Miss Aline, we just been talking about what I was doing over the weekend in terms of my health check at Health City on Saturday. 6 hours I spent at the facility getting tested, everything under the sun. So all right, that's where we're at, folks, for the 50 by 50 plan. I'm done with that. Again, this is just the beginning, knowing your numbers, get a baseline for where you're at so that you then can set realistic goals for where you're going from there. So how is everybody doing? We're going to switch gears a little bit here this morning. Um, oh gosh, so somebody just messaged and said, we also have a nephew or cousin that just had a stroke about 3 weeks ago. He's currently in the Shetty Hospital unresponsive. We all grew up together. My deepest condolences. Oh my goodness. Okay. That seems to be somebody in our family, which, yeah, this is, you've got family histories of stuff. And I think that, sometimes the family history is more the bad family habits than anything that's like genetic. All right. Yeah, I mean, as we start to get older now, we hear of all these sorts of instances happening, right? So it's Monday Rewind, folks. So what else happened over the weekend? Well, of course, there was good morning to Everton. Elaine's closet is here. Everton said, I had one in my belly button. I have it corrected. A hernia can occur by lifting heavy things or a strain on your stomach. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Oops. All right, I don't know when I would have gotten it. So I honestly can't say. But so what else happened over the weekend? Well, of course, it wouldn't be a weekend and came out with a little bit of controversy. So let's talk about that.
Time for Monday Rewind. The Cold Hard Truth's Monday Rewind show recaps the weekend's news and events so you don't miss a beat.
Don't miss out.
All the weekend's source, news, gossip, and well, it wouldn't be a weekend recap show without traffic accidents too. Cayman Marl Road is Cayman's #1 news source and has the island's hottest morning talk show.
It's the hottest.
Make sure you don't miss a beat with Monday Rewind.
Rewind.
Tune in every Monday from 7:30 a.m. on both YouTube and Facebook.
All right, folks. So listen, you guys know that I love my overnight oats in the morning. So as I was thinking about what the dietitian said about some of the changes that I need to make. So here's my overnight oats, and it looks a lot different than it did before. And I'm going to tell you what I did. So they said, listen, fruits, even natural sugars, you've got to be careful with in your diet. And y'all know I love me. I don't really eat ripe mangoes. I'll do like a mango drink, which I guess is ripe. But I don't really eat ripe mangoes. I only eat turned mangoes, and that's only during the summer when the local mangoes are in season. Salt, pepper, sauce, you know what I'm saying, right? Other than that, I'm really not a mango person. Like I can go the rest of the year not even eat any mangoes. But during the summer now, I kind of make up for it because I'm going to sit down and eat a whole bag of mangoes when I get me a bunch. So, I got to cut out some of the sweet things. And this is a good example of how there are literally things hiding in your diet. So when she said, start thinking about some of the fruits and stuff that you're eating, I was like, okay. Everybody thinks, oh, fruits are healthy. They are, but it depends on the kind of fruit you have. You can't eat everything depending on, those A1C numbers and so on. So I thought, also I'm supposed to eat 6 meals a day now, 6 small meals. I should have had something to eat already and I haven't. But I really got to start eating these smaller meals throughout the day instead of like 2 or 3 big meals. Cause she's like, the people who do a fasting diet or whatever, that isn't going to work for you because the fasting periods for someone who is struggling with keeping their insulin levels at a certain level can be counterintuitive because your numbers are going to be impacted during those periods of fasting, which is what you don't really want. So overnight oats are ideal. But you know what was happening? The way that they come is the overnight oats come with a line of blueberry. I think it's some kind of jam or preserve that they put in the middle, add sweetness to it. Then they add in raisins, adds more sweetness to it. And then on top of that, they do the fruit. So I said to them this weekend, these are my friends over at the Cupboard, which is the coffee shop there in, what's it called? Over at the Ritz. So I called them and I said, I'd like to make some modifications to the overnight oats. And they're very, very accommodating. They actually went and made me a batch of overnight oats. You see, that's why I'm feeling these people because that's what they do. And so I'm like, yes, thank you very much. So I said, I want to remove the whatever that is that they put in there, some kind of jam or something, blueberry. And I want to take out the raisins. And then I just want my berries because she said I can eat berries. I can do blueberries, strawberries, whatever other berries there are out there, right? So I can add that. And, I got to tell you the truth. It isn't the same. It tastes so much better with those sweet elements added. That's why I was all into it because really it was sweeter than I was even recognizing. Really, really delicious. Now it's not. The sweetness is gone, honey chill. But you know what? It's overnight oats and it's supposed to be healthy for you. So I'm going to continue to eat the healthier version of my overnight oats. So I call, bring, Ritz Carlton, ladies and gentlemen of Ritz Carlton, how may I help you? And I just say, may I have the covered coffee shop, please? And then I pre-order, and they're happy to do this for me, apparently. And yeah, so now I can have it healthier and still get the benefits of the oats because the oats are supposed to be good for you. Raw oats, these are overnight oats, right? So we're going to continue to do that. I must tell you, though, it does not taste the same. I'm going to be lying if I told you any differently, and we do not lie here in this program. So yes, it isn't the same, but hey, on Journey to Better Health, we're going to remove certain things from the diet as much as possible. All right, so let's talk about the parade over the weekend. So the LGBTQ community had their parade on Saturday afternoon. I was not able to make it, largely because all day I was at my health checkup that I was just talking about, right? So we set some backup to cover the event. They invited us. We went last year. We went again this year. We support the LGBTQ plus community. I saw some of you messaging me like, oh, did you see any videos from this? And then I'm like, listen, I really don't know, quite frankly, why y'all bring these conversations to me, right? These are adults. They are more team and better dressed and less gyrating and whatever else than what I see at other carnivals on this island. So it can't be that your religious moral compass has you concerned from that perspective, because I don't see y'all cussing any of the other parades that happen out there that are all about humping each other's legs and humping your back and whatever else you be doing out in public, right? I don't see y'all complaining about that type of stuff. I don't see public urination is a thing apparently in this country. I see people doing it all the time. It's disgusting. I remember the first time you posted that up on CMR, y'all were saying to me, well, what's the problem? If somebody got to go, they got to go. And I was like, really? These are the standards with which we're operating? And apparently you guys are okay with certain things. When we start talking about, sorry, my sinuses are getting agitated again, but when we start talking about, different abuses against children and stuff like that, even someone on Instagram, there's a story that we posted up, and the person was like, oh, crickets. I notice how no one is even commenting on this post right now, and it has something to do with child abuse. This is the norm, folks. Unfortunately, I've gotten used to it. It's not something, when I say I've gotten used to it, from the perspective of I know that this is reality, but it does not stop me from continually having the discussion and keep bringing it up, because it's something that we can't allow to just go away as a point of discussion. But yeah, somebody also noticed, they're like, wow, this time y'all are really, really quiet about this. I see you guys defending when people have committed these atrocious acts against children. Some of you go as far as trying to defend these individuals. I have seen it all, and it's utterly disgusting. What concerns you about consenting adults? I have no idea. Quite frankly, what they do behind closed doors, as long as it does not involve children, I could not care any less. Like, it doesn't really bother me. It's not my business, right? And it's so shocking that some of the people who are the most bothered by this are the people who are out there beating their wives. Somebody messaged me this weekend, and I was thinking to myself, should I just say to him, have you seen these videos? I'm like, well, should I say to him, yeah, well, what about the times you've been, arrested for beating your wife? And, the Cape Islands government is trying to get rid of you because you're a friggin' wife beater and allowing your little girl to see that abuse in your home. That is what you should be focused on and what you should be concerned about. That type of behavior, raising the next generation to accept violence in a home, as opposed to what a gay couple is doing in the privacy of their relationship that has nothing to do with you. Anyway, honey child, I had to bite my tongue and not say anything, because Lord knows I was just going to be like, really? So the parade took place this weekend. I heard that it was a well-attended event. People seem to have had a good time. I know that we live streamed part of it, but I think there were some issues with the music that was being played, like Facebook will copyright the flag copyright music. And and kind of block it. Eventually they'll release it. And so the video is there. If you don't want to see the video, folks, it's so simple. Just keep scrolling. You don't have to watch it. That's the beauty of these things, right? You don't have to watch it. Keep scrolling. There was nothing untoward in the video. The premier was there. The deputy governor was there on behalf of the governor, because I understand the governor, I think, is on vacation and holiday at the moment. And you guys are like, oh my God, I saw children there. Right. And when you see children in Badabadu, K-Mass, or wherever the hell else they be showing up at these events, and what I would consider very inappropriate things where you're sexualizing them, y'all don't see nothing wrong with that. Little 5-year-old going hump, hump, hump. And you're like, oh yes, go get it, Bobo. Yeah, y'all be cheering. Oh, look at my little Bobo. He only 5 years old. And here he is gyrating and, simulating sexual activity that he knows nothing about. Right? Where was the outrage when the video with the high school kids was circulating, where they were talking about, these are your children now, folks, about what they do in the bedroom. And I don't know what these 12, 13, 14-year-old kids know anything about being in a bedroom, doing anything sexual. But when they were having that conversation and talking about it, why were you not disturbed then? One of those kids talking about it, oh, if she's not 9 years old, he don't want her. A 9-year-old. This is the foolishness, right? I don't know who his parents are, but trust me, if that was my child, there would be some answering going on around the house. Because no child around me is going to say something like that without me saying, what do you know about touching a 9-year-old child? His behind should be in jail, is where he should be. But as Debbie says, the selective outrage, ignorance at its core, is so incredibly true. Y'all just need to get over it. So don't message me with your ignorance, because I'm not here for it. And a few people did, and I chose in the moment to ignore it instead of telling you a few choice words and probably making my blood sugar, or not my blood sugar, but my blood pressure go up higher than it needed to. So Debbie says, Sandy, it was a great event, well attended, incredible music, and the meat acts were great. Ignore the idiots. Yeah, so listen, the people who it was intended for, by all accounts, had a fantastic time. They enjoyed themselves. I heard the performances were very, very good. And it is what it is. Just keep it moving. So I saw Everton's comment earlier where he said, good morning, Sandy. I have a question to ask this morning. With the parade that you guys had over the weekend, why was all that negative vibes? Let these people live their lives. And the question I ask is, what if your brother, sister, auntie, cousin were bisexual? They get the same treatment from the individuals. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I know this is not the topic this morning, but I had to bring it up. So the truth of the matter is, Everton, we all have people in our families. Oh, shoot. I almost spilled my overnight oats. We all have people in our families, Everton, that fall on the spectrum of being somewhere on there, whether they're LGBTQ or whatever, right? I have cousins. Trying to think who else. Definitely cousins. I'm not aware of any siblings, but who knows? I'm not swearing for nobody. You never know. And again, that's their life. So here we go with some spammer. Let me block them now. Oh Lord, these people are so disgusting. So yes, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not bothered by it. Damien says the hypocrisy is the practice of engaging the same behavior or activity for which one criticizes another, or the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. In moral psychology, it is the failure to follow one's own express moral rules and principles. Ooh, honey child. Damien, let me tell you, you have hit the nail on the head with something there, because the truth of the matter is,
no recordings available.
What is this thing doing? The truth of the matter is, quite frankly, this is just, I gotta tell you what, this is one of those things where it happens a lot in this country and in this community. I see it all the time where people pretend to be one thing and there's something else. That's why I call them out every opportunity they get on the hypocrisy of their lives. So while they're worried about what consenting adults are doing, okay, they are out there doing the most themselves. And yes, some of that includes engaging in some of the same behavior that publicly they want to get up in the legislative assembly and try to talk about, oh, we need to ban this, we need to do this, no gay marriages, blah, blah, blah. But yet they're out there engaging in that same act, those same acts themselves. And everybody in the community knows their history of soliciting sex from same-sex people. And we just pretend that none of this is happening because we are oftentimes a community that lives in pretense. And, y'all need to get over it, quite frankly. Imagine what a wonderful world it would be if people were free to be who they are. So even those MPs that are fronting, getting married, and doing the most to pretend like they're Christian people, going to church, imagine if they could just live openly. What freedom comes with that. If they could just live openly, where they're like, all right, I can be me. I can be who I am. If I want to go and speak to an adult, not underage, male, to solicit him for whatever, that would be my business, my personal business. A child, they be pretending like they're so into women and whatever, when God knows the truth ain't that none at all. All right, listen, my sinuses, as you can hear, are getting worse by the minute. So we're going to take our news break now, get caught up. Whatever happened to that story with that? Which story, child? That's an ongoing saga for these MPs, honey, child. This is what they're into all the time. I hate to tell you, but not new. Nothing new at all. These dudes live a different life. And like I said, the ones that I have a problem with are definitely the ones who are engaging in relationships with children who have a history of doing that and of covering up. And again, everybody in the community knows exactly who they are, and they have just ignored it for the past 30, 40 years, pretending like, oh, it ain't no big deal. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Anyway, big shout out to Kevin Watler, bringing you your headline news for the day.
Hello, I'm Kevin Watler, and this is your CMR Daily Buzz. 77-year-old Margaret Rose Garcia died Sunday morning after the vehicle she was traveling in crashed into an almond tree in South Sound off Memorial Avenue. She was said to be traveling from her daughter's wedding along with her husband and the groom's parents in the vehicle. They were traveling back to the hotel where Mrs. Margaret Rose's vehicle was parked and for her to collect it and return home. The visiting groom's parents remain in hospital in stable condition while Mr. Morris Garcia was discharged with what is believed to be non-life-threatening injuries. Police reports that around 12:25 a.m., police and other emergency services were dispatched to South Church Street in Georgetown, where it was reported that there was a single vehicle collision involving a white Kia Sportage SUV. The vehicle, which had 4 occupants, collided with a tree. The ambulance arrived and transported all 4 people to the hospital. The 77-year-old of Bordentown was later pronounced dead by the attending doctor. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia lived in Lower Valley, with the victim originally being from East End. She is survived by her husband, son, and daughter. She was a teacher and education officer for many years. The police are investigating this incident, and anyone with information is encouraged to call the Traffic and Roads Policing Unit at 649-6254 or the Georgetown Police Station at 949-4222. Wanted man Charles Walton III was captured. He was arrested on Saturday, July 30th on suspicion of robbery, and he remains in custody pending further investigations. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service thanks the public for their assistance in locating him. Police continue to look for Luisto Eusebio Hernandez in relation to firearm offenses. He is considered armed and dangerous and should not be approached. If seen, call 911 immediately. The search is still on for two missing men. 53-year-old Noel Paul Manning has been missing since June 24th, and 26-year-old Adrian Williamson has been missing since July 6th. Now you are asked to contact your nearest police station if you see them. Anonymous tips can be provided directly to the RCIPS via their confidential tip line at 949-7777 or via their website. The Cayman Islands Border Control is being accused of using underhanded tactics to remove 30-year-old Jamaican gangster Rudolph Boxer Shaw from the Cayman Islands. CBC confirms that they followed the letter of the law in removing him from the Cayman Islands, and he was placed on an early morning flight to Kingston, Jamaica on Wednesday morning. Sources familiar with the man's defense claimed that his legal team was preparing to provide CBC with a Haitian birth certificate and were prepared to appeal the decision by way of judicial review to send him back to Jamaica. However, CBC sources indicate that they had no qualms about his ID and he was a Jamaican national with a Jamaican passport and birth certificate. It is not clear how he could have produced two possible birth certificates. Shaw is wanted in Jamaica for multiple murders and is said to be a dangerous member of the wildlife gang in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. A 30-year-old man was arrested after returning to one of the businesses he is accused of breaking into, and he has been charged for 2 counts of commercial burglaries. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service said in a press release that police responded to a burglary that took place at a business establishment located on School Road in Georgetown. A short time after, a second burglary was reported at another business establishment located on Shedden Road. Now, later the same day, while officers were investigating the burglary at the Shedden Road location, the suspect walked into the location and was identified by the owner and an attending officer. The man was observed with an item that was later confirmed to be stolen during the earlier commercial burglary. He was arrested on suspicion of burglary for both incidents and was kept in custody pending further investigations. The man was subsequently charged with both offenses and appeared in court on Friday. Accountant Fernando Mota Mendez has been charged with 12 counts of obtaining property by deception and 1 count of theft for taking more than $35,000 from his clients. The 55-year-old appeared in court recently to answer to the charges that he used his property management company to con his clients out of bookings and money. Mendez was employed as the maintenance manager at On the Bay condos in Old Man Bay in Northside. In June 2019, he met the owner of the Pink Beach House in Rum Point. She expressed concerns about her existing property management company. He shared that his company, Guardian Properties, specialized in biodecontamination of properties. Eventually, they agreed to give his company the contract at the same rate, and he would be responsible for opening and closing the property when guests stayed at the premises. He was also going to maintain and keep the property clean. Mendez has never had a business license for this company. Royal Medical Center recently appeared in court for failing to pay one of its doctors her monthly wages. It was revealed through the investigation leading up to the criminal charges that Dr. Tamika Irons had not received her agreed-upon salary for the entire duration of her employment with the medical facility. Her pay was always short or late, and Royal Medical decided to pay her in installments instead of in accordance with the terms of the employment contract. She revealed in her complaint that from the onset of her employment in January 2021, she never once received her full monthly salary. Instead, the director of the facility, Kirk Donald, would pay her piecemeal in random installments of $1,000. She had agreed to an employment contract that included a salary of $10,000 per month to be paid at the end of each month. A trial removal of sargassum from the North Sound has begun. It involves pumping sargassum out of the water and transporting the seaweed to one or more on-land disposal sites. Now, the Ministry of Sustainability and Climate Resiliency and the Department of Environment are leading the emergency response efforts to address the large amount of sargassum seaweed in the area. During a recent recruitment drive in Cayman Brac and Grand Cayman, more than 200 people expressed an interest to work for the Cayman Islands Fire Service. During the drive, fire officers conducted demonstrations, and anyone who is interested in learning more about the Cayman Islands Fire Service is encouraged to send an email to cifs@gov.ky. Under the Community Payback Program, the Department of Community Rehabilitation recently partnered with the Barbados Consulate of the Cayman Islands to provide some much-needed renovations to Pedro Park. The 6-week renovation project consisted of repainting and refurbishing the performance area, truck shop, bathroom and basketball court, and landscaping the entire park area. The Department of Community Rehabilitation was able to assist by utilizing the skills of some of the community service clients who have skills in plumbing, electrical skills, painting, and carpentry. More information on each of these stories can be found at caymanmallroad.com. Now for your CMR weather update, it's brought to you by WG Charters. The sunrise was at 6:02 this morning and the temperature rises to the high 80s today, but it will feel much hotter than that. Now when the temperature is at 88 degrees Fahrenheit and the relative humidity is at 76%, like the forecast calls for, the temperature will feel like it's 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very hot. Now the winds will be east-southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour, and then the sun sets at 7:01. When it cools at nighttime, the temperature falls to the low 80s. Looking forward, similar weather conditions are expected. It's summertime, so those hot days and warm nights with scattered showers, which is very typical for this time of year. CMR weather updates are brought to you by WG Charters. They offer private boat trips for a great price, so we encourage you to support them. Now for some regional and international news. The United States House of Representatives passed legislation Friday to revive a ban on semi-automatic guns, the first vote of its kind in years, and a direct response to the firearms often used in the crush of mass shootings ripping through communities across America. Once banned in the United States, the high-powered firearms are now widely blamed for the weapon of choice among young men responsible for many of the most devastating mass shootings. But Congress allowed the restrictions first put in place in 1994 on the manufacture and sales of the weapons to expire a decade later. Unable to muster the political support to counter the powerful gun lobby and reinstate the weapons ban, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi pushed the vote toward passage in a Democratic-run House, saying the earlier ban saved lives. Now the House legislation is shunned by Republicans who dismissed it as an election year strategy by Democrats. Almost all Republicans voted against the bill, which passed 217 to 213. It will likely stall in the 50-50 Senate. More than 3,600 Jamaicans have been hired from a recent cruise ship recruitment, and at least 400 applicants were rejected on medical grounds. Jamaica's Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett said the process is ongoing and that the final selections are being made by Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. He also shared that some applicants had literacy challenges and did not complete the application form. Hundreds of Jamaicans turned up at the Hart College of Beauty Services on Hope Road in St. Andrew on June 23rd to apply for cruise ship jobs, following an announcement by the tourism minister that some 10,000 employment opportunities with several cruise lines would soon become available. The world's largest cruise lines announced they are easing coronavirus testing requirements on some trips that last less than a week. Both Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Group, which includes Royal Caribbean International, Celebrity Cruises, and Silver Sea, said they made the changes in response to the end of the CDC's COVID-19 cruise program earlier this month. Fully vaccinated passengers will not need to take a test before boarding if the trip is 5 nights or fewer. For trips 6 nights or longer, travelers still need to test, but those tests can be done 3 days before the cruise departs. Unvaccinated guests must still present proof of a negative test earlier administered by a lab or supervised as a self-test within 3 days of boarding. Now, tests on the day of departure in port terminals will not be required. That's it for now on the Daily Buzz. Thanks for joining me. Please stay safe and God bless.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. So I have someone who said, Sandy, the Pride event over the weekend was a wonderful event. This is what they said. They said, "Morning, Sandra. The Pride event was without incident. People are all well behaved. There was no drunkenness or gyrating. It was good. The children that were there with their parents, and the children's behavior was wholesome. No one was whining or gyrating on them like in K-Mass and Badawanoo. Please show this video to your guests so that they can see for themselves." So they have sent us a number of videos. Let's have a quick look.
So Noel, I really tell me a little bit, why did you start the Cayman LGBTQ Foundation? Period. My voice is fucked just like yours, okay? Let's go. He said his voice is fucked up. Meanwhile, I almost had an asthma attack. I almost died, Jesus Christ. Well, we started the Cayman LGBTQ Foundation because we saw the need for the LGBT community in various ways that we wanted to support. So therefore, we're here, we've done a lot, and we're looking to do a lot more. We're here to assist many people as far as housing, food, medical, anyone that comes through our door. And the good news is you don't have to be a part of our community for us to assist anyone. Noah, before you go, tell me, where can people find out more about the Cayman LGBTQ Foundation? Where can they follow you? And make sure you slow it down so y'all can get it. Take out your phones, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow the links he's about to give you. Our Instagram page is at Cayman LGBTQ Foundation. Our email, which is a bit long, it's clgbtqf@gmail.com. So make sure you guys go and follow it. Mr. Boy, Jesus Christ, the hottest man. Mr. Melvin, kick out my shoes. Let me translate. It is very hot outside, and my ear is like freezing. Like, oh my God. Did you guys get that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna bring Miss Kiki back to the stage.
I'm going to just mute that music. I'm sure Facebook waiting to block us now because of music. But anyway, as you can see, they're dancing, the performers on stage. They look like they're having a fabulous time. My hat's off to anybody who can dance in heels, child. I don't care if they're a man or woman, because G's on peace, not even to me. Keep the heels for yourself. This last one is a deputy governor giving some comments. I think maybe he did he just comments in this one? Oh, maybe not. That's more dancing. Anyway, it seems like they had an absolutely fabulous time. Someone actually sent me a video of a young man who they're like, oh, this is Frank Cornwall's son. I guess I don't really know anything about the man, but I guess he has a son who happens to be, I'm assuming he's gay. I don't know. And, he had on a little bit of makeup and whatever. Child, I was going to ask him to come do my eyeliner for me because his looked pretty good. And so, again, it's interesting to look at. He says, yes, I'm going to be there. People ask him if he was going to go out. He said, yes, I'll be there and you guys will see me and I'll be looking fabulous, whatever. Good for him. Be who you are, my dear. That's all on him. And, again, I don't know. People send me stuff and I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to be looking for here? I wasn't really sure. But, if he's a member of that community and he wants to go out and enjoy himself, he looks like he has a little bit more pizzazz than a lot of other people in the community. But, the spectrum of who we are is completely, what it is. Some people are just regular people who, like to show more character and more color. And, that's just how life is. So, folks, let's just move on. Jonathan says the Lord will soon come and deal with us. Well, he can come at any minute because he has a lot of child molesters to deal with, a lot of murderers to deal with, a lot of scammers and thieves and people committing adultery and fornication, all that other stuff. So yeah, he's going to have his work cut out for him. So make him come on down. Good Lord. Come on down. What a hot mess. Where's my little buttons now? I need to start queuing them up a little bit quicker than I have been. There you go. All right. So speaking of Jonathan, is this the right Jonathan? Jonathan, did you see this article about how men's cannabis use can affect their children's health? I want you to go and look at the article and read it. Now, I know you think that I'm hating. I said, you know what? I'm not even going to ask Renee to rewrite the article. I'm actually just going to share it as it is. Because Jonathan had claimed that I'm somehow doctoring the evidence. I'm like, just share it as it is. He can go to psychology.com himself and others and look at the research on pot and sperm quality, gene expression, and child development. So pot smoking is not something that is just going to impact you, but it's going to impact your children and future generations. Isn't that super interesting? So what the research has seen, decades of research have shown how mothers' consumption of marijuana during pregnancy can affect the health and development of their children. Fetal exposure to THC, which is the active ingredient in marijuana, has been linked to lower birth weights and birth defects, higher aggression, poorer attention in infants, as well as impulse control. My apologies. Anxiety, attention, and memory issues in their children. But what about fathers who smoke pot or edible eating habits? A growing body of research suggests that a dad's intake of THC also affects the mental and physical health of a future child. Here's a look at what recent studies have told us. So, of course, it impacts your sperm and erectile function. Hallelujah. When y'all hear that, you might want to stop. So a man's future children obviously begin with his preconception pot habits. That is how much marijuana he's consumed in the days, months, and years leading up to impregnating his partner. A man's pot consumption can affect the size, shape, and function of his sperm. Bloop, bloop. Not good swimmers. As well as the testosterone levels, according to a 2021 systematic review published in Cirrus. I have to look that one up. Impairments in these aspects of male reproductive health have been found amongst marijuana users, especially if their intake is heavy. And that means heavy is defined as greater than once per week. Despite an increased perception of pleasure during sexual activity while stoned, marijuana can also contribute to erectile dysfunction. That was published in the 2019 in the Journal of Andrology. So all these factors can raise a man's risk of infertility. A lot of people, when you can't conceive, you always want to think that it's the woman, but it turns out men play a big role in this as well, right? 50-50. So it says not all findings in reproductive health outcomes of male marijuana users are consistent, however. And of course, they give you the other side. A 2021 Therapeutic Advances in Urology study found that among 409 American men struggling with fertility, those who never consume marijuana tended to produce sperm with lower motility. So again, they say movement efficiency than current or former marijuana consumers. However, more likely to produce abnormally shaped sperm as well as lower sperm volumes. So former or current users in the study were more likely to produce abnormally shaped sperm as well as lower sperm volumes. Yes? Which you want the volume to be good because then your chances are better. And then they go through a couple other studies. So have a read of this article, folks. This is really, really interesting. And then it talks also about how it impacts the fetal and child development. This is based on a 2008 study that was published in the journal Schizophrenia Research, found that a father's consumption of marijuana during his partner's pregnancy predicted a higher chance of their child having psychotic-like symptoms during the pregnancy. So that means that she would have been inhaling it as secondhand smoke, I guess. Yes, it goes on to say that this could be due to secondhand smoke and is not all that surprising. More concerning is a 2020 toxicology sciences study from Duke University Medical Center that found offspring of male rats injected with THC every day for a month showed significant brain development abnormalities reminiscent of those observed in human babies exposed to toxic chemicals in the womb, like neurotoxins, pesticides, and specifically the pups showed slowed development and permanently suppressed functioning of, oh Lord, what is this now? Acetylcholine pathways. Okay, I don't know what that word is. That's one we're going to have to take to dictionary.com for pronunciation. Run. See if we can get it right.
Acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine. Ooh, wouldn't have gotten that one right.
Acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine. Uh-huh. So acetylcholine is a chemical substance secreted at the ends of many nerve fibers, especially in the atomic nervous system and responsible for the transmission of nervous impulses. Oh, that doesn't sound good. So how do we pronounce it again?
Acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine pathways, which are involved in learning, memory, attention, emotional function, and reward. They also found that offsprings of male rats exposed before their offspring's conception to cannabis smoke exhibited impaired activity in their dopamine pathways, potentially rendering them more susceptible to addictions later in life. Interesting. Though the exact mechanism by which paternal THC exposure achieves these effects on offspring hasn't yet been identified. They pointed out that THC consumption alters the methylation of genes. Is that the right pronunciation? Hold on. I don't want Soka messaging me after the show, so let's see if we can get these right this morning. I think this is
methylation.
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 All right, good enough. Methylation of genes. Sorry. And it goes on to say, which in turn alters expression of genes, DNA stretches that code for proteins contained with sperm cells, blah, blah, blah. So listen, this concept, it goes on. There's quite a bit more. I'm going to share it with you guys in the link. This concept that a parent's behavior can change the genetic composition and makeup of your children is not, I was speaking to the wrong Jonathan, I think. Jonathan Powell is not entirely unheard of. That is why even a traumatic situation like years of slavery, right? We're going to talk about emancipation this morning, so this conversation is going to nicely segue into that. But when we talk about things, for example, like the impact of slavery, this impact of the Jews going through the Holocaust and all these types of things, these major events, right, have the ability to change the genetic makeup of people. Your genes are changed by events, traumatic events that have happened to you. And your genes are changed not just for you, but for your offspring as well. So isn't it interesting if you were to think about it and you think about some of the things that people say and how they feel and how they think, for example, about African Americans and different things, whatever. And then you think, wait a minute, they have experienced hundreds of years of, trauma in the form of slavery and being repressed and being, downtrodden and told that you're really nothing and you're nobody and you never amount to anything. You're just good for physical labor, being raped and sexually assaulted and used like you were cattle. And, the men were forced to have sex with each other. And I mean, all sorts of craziness went on as part of, slavery, trying to indoctrinate people, right? And when you think about that and the fact that those are things that can then impact not just your experience and not even just because you think, right, here we are celebrating August 1st is Emancipation Day, right? And here we are supposedly celebrating being emancipated from slavery way back when. But the emancipation doesn't stop with someone just waking up one day and going, oh, okay, we're going to free you. We're going to, and on paper, and I want to read an editorial that someone submitted to us. We're going to free you today, and you're fine to go out there and make your own way in the world. Go find your own success stories. You're now in an even playing field with everybody else. So we want you to become entrepreneurs. We want you to be successful. We want you to rise up out of the violence that you've been subjected to for all of these years. And don't become violent people. Don't, have one of the highest crime rates in America and yada, yada, yada. It's so easy to say those things. And so you start to really examine how what has happened historically is that the very genetic imprint of an entire species of people has been changed. When you hear people talk about, for example, let's take Jamaica, because, people, y'all love the controversy. And you're like, oh, Jamaica has one of the highest murder rates in the world. They do. And, violence that they do. And then you look at where the African trade came from, how it came into Jamaica, how it impacted Jamaica. You don't think that there's a direct correlation between that violence that has existed as part of the slave history and what is happening in Jamaica today and now? Why people don't even value lives? Why violence is just like, yeah, it's run of the mill. It's every day. It's like, all right. Multiple bodies found every single day. It's just, you get used to it. But what's causing the violence has been something that has been imprinted on the DNA of the people. It might be a little bit too deep to go into this morning, but all I'm telling you is go and look at the science, because the science doesn't lie. The science is there. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the excuse that you use to never elevate yourself and never seek to break that cycle of violence. But it does give you a little bit of an insight into how we've gotten where we've gotten. So today, folks, is Emancipation Day. Happy Emancipation Day. Y'all know what Emancipation Day is all about? Well, go on our website this morning. We actually have a big shout out to Renee. She's put up a story for the day that says Caribbean nations celebrate emancipation. And coming into this weekend, of course, Jamaica is also celebrating their 60th anniversary. Yeah. So August the 1st, many Caribbean nations commemorate Emancipation Day, which is an important reminder that all people deserve to be treated fairly and with respect. So this day back in 1834, the abolition of slavery in the British Empire and the 1838 abolition of apprenticeship, a system that forced formerly enslaved people to continue to work uncompensated for their former masters. Y'all heard what I just said? It still took 4 years after the official abolition of slavery for them to get rid of this apprenticeship program. They just changed the name from slavery to apprenticeship. So the Slavery Abolition Act, which banned slavery in the British colonies, happened on this day back in 1834. Now, here's something that has been submitted by, by Mr. Thomas Famous. We'll put this up on the website later as an editorial piece, but this is what he had to say about emancipation. So he said, supposedly in 1834, the British abolished slavery. The reality is that those formerly enslaved had to give another 4 years of free labor under the apprenticeship system. The British government took out a loan in order to give financial compensation to the former slave owners. In today's terms, that would exceed $20 billion. $20 billion to the former slave owners who took that money to start new businesses and make new fortunes. Many of these businesses still exist today. Not one dime to those formerly enslaved. Nearly 200 years later, have we received anything? Nearly 200 years later, the United Kingdom is still forcing unreasonable economic, political, and social demands on their remaining Caribbean countries. Nearly 200 years later, we have just started to realize that our survival means that we must work as one Caribbean people. Nearly 200 years later, independent countries still have the Queen as head of state. Are we truly emancipated as yet? Interesting. Yes. What I found even more interesting is a viewer to the program said to me this morning They said, let me just back up here. They said, did you know that the Cayman Islands celebrated Emancipation Day until 1961? And I was like, why? I mean, why did we stop? And they said, why did we stop? I don't know. It's like the John Canoe celebrations in BT stopped in the 1970s. Nobody knows why. I suspect it had to do with Cayman moving towards becoming a financial center, downplaying our Caribbean or African part and pushing our European heritage forward. Not even the archives can find explaining why we stopped celebrating. I had never thought of this because I never knew that we celebrated at all. So this is a bit of news to me. So we stopped celebrating Emancipation Day in 1961. Well, that was before I was born. So of course, that's probably why I don't know anything about it. And then we stopped celebrating. I didn't know that we used to do John Canoe back in Town in the 1970s. Wow. Interesting. I mean, the things that you find out. So somebody else says, they showed me the video with Uncle Roy, and it talks about a bit of Cayman history. It says, go to 322 in the video. Whenever people talk about Cayman being a dependency of Jamaica, we have been British since the Treaty of Madrid. It's called fallacy of Cayman being independent. This fallacy of Cayman being independent of Jamaica has to stop. And this is, again, is something I didn't know. So, I mean, I think structurally we fell under Jamaica, but we were not a dependent of Jamaica. And a lot of Jamaicans seem to have adopted that bit of misinformation. And they think that that's actually accurate. And I was like, wow, things that you learn every single day. You just got to be open to exploring. Now, I don't know why this link, the person sent me a link I wanted to have a look at, but this isn't working. Isn't that interesting? So we as a people don't even celebrate anything to do with Emancipation Day. Why? Surely when you go to Pedro Castle and you read on the little scrolls there, you know, we were emancipated back in 1832, blah, blah, blah. That's an important part of our history. And as far as I'm concerned, we should be celebrating it. So it's just really weird. Isn't it? I don't know. All right. So Jonathan's here to support his pot smoking message. Maria says, by your theory, most Caribbean islands that had a history, which are most of them would have had severe violence as well. That's not the case at all. Well, actually, that's not the case. When it comes to violence, the Caribbean and Latin and Central America has the highest instance of violence in the entire world. Yeah, that's a fact. So go on the list, statistics, not whatever that website is. Look at the most violent countries in the world, and they fall into those regions. The countries who had a farther historical connection to slavery, which would be a lot of the European countries. That's why everybody's always like, oh, you know, Amsterdam is wonderful and they figured it out, and Switzerland and this one and that one. Go and have a look as to their connection with and to slavery. Even America, the violence in America. They had one of the more recent histories of slavery run amok. So I don't think that it's not true. I think that because of the population of a place like Jamaica and maybe Haiti being more populated, we see it a little bit closer in our faces. But it's not true that the other Caribbean islands don't have a lot of violence and stuff as well. Trust me, look at the reports coming out of those countries every single day. The Cayman Islands has been, to a large extent, a little bit of an anomaly because of our size. Now we see the violence cracking here too, to be quite frank. I'm just saying, look at the court list every single day. Paul says that the Cayman Islands cannot commemorate the freedom of its former slaves, but can celebrate one whole week of piracy. That says a lot. Shameful. Well, now it's going to be 3 months of piracy that we're going to be celebrating. And Paul, I cannot argue with the point, not at all. One day of doing anything as it relates to Emancipation Day, and we can't do that. Nope. I'm not sure. Do we ever get messages from government folks about Emancipation Day and the importance of that? We might get one after now. But I'm just saying. What a mess. Okay. So there you have it. Something to certainly think about. King, good morning. Joining us from the UK. Good afternoon, your time. Says covering up nastiness and shielding the reputation of these families who did the dirt and made the money off the racism and slavery. That's likely why. Yes, Maria says America has the worst violence. And they also have one of the worst atrocious histories, if not the worst, of slavery as well. And it didn't stop for them in 1834. They were still lynching people well into the 1960s. So again, I'm not surprised. The American dream isn't really for everyone. Believe me when I tell you that, again, that entire situation has been marred by their history of slavery. And slavery, when I was in university, when I was at USF, my first degree, I took a course because I had nothing else to do. Like, that last semester, you're pretty much done. You've gotten all the important stuff out of the way. And you're like, okay, what do I do now? So I had a couple free credits and I was like, all right, there's a course that came up about I forget what the name of the course was, the civil rights movement or something it was. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll take this because this is interesting. A little bit of American history that, you don't get taught in the traditional history class, right? So I took that and I was left shocked is the only word that I could use at the degree of violence that was perpetrated against African Americans, Black people in America, even past what they considered to be the Civil War and past the abolition of slavery. And I thought to myself, there are people who would have experienced those things that are still alive and their children are alive and they would have seen or heard their parents talk about these stories, these horrific things that happened to them and their grandchildren. And I'm like, wow, even before I knew of this whole impact of one's DNA, violence can have an impact, a direct impact on one's DNA from one generation to the next. Even before I knew of that information, that study, that research, it occurred to me that you're not that far removed from something that happened in the 50s and 60s when you've been around for a minute. And so I could understand. After taking that course, I must tell you, it made me sad. It made me angry. It made me I was confused. I was like, I can see how people could walk around with a chip on their shoulders because of what they and their forefathers and their parents and their grandparents actually endured. It was horrific. And systemic issues that flow from slavery, prejudices in this world that we live in, still exist now. No two ways about it. And so to have come out of that history and then have people tell you, oh, it's time you got over it. You need to quickly forget about it. We're going to put you on a playing field with everybody else. when there's so many things that have been created from how neighborhoods are designed and the whole works to keep people poor and to keep people disenfranchised, right? And to keep you stuck in the cycle of poverty. It's a systemic problem. And until you're at least willing to be honest that the playing field isn't even, and that's why some of the things in the 70s and so forth looked at trying to give people who were not in an even playing field a little bit of an upper hand, a little bit of an advantage. And then within a generation or two, you turn around and say, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Hundreds of years of slavery have been removed in 2 generations. So let's just get over it. Let's remove all of these. What are the programs in the US called? Oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Will they give like an African American one little more point on an application that they submit for like scholarships and whatever? Affirmative action. So let's remove all the affirmative action stuff because you people just need to get over it and you don't need any more of a pull up in life. It really is crazy. Well, Miss Maria says most of the islands are a very peaceful place and safe. Well, again, I mean, let me tell you what the crime says. By region, it's the Caribbean and Latin and South America. So, of course, they're looking at murder rates, which isn't all the crime that's committed, but crime rate by country 2022. Top 10: Venezuela, Papua New Guinea, South Africa, Afghanistan, Honduras, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, El Salvador, Brazil, Jamaica. In the top 10. And all those are regional. Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Honduras. Let me tell you in the region. This is another one, most dangerous in the world. So in the Caribbean, of course, Jamaica is by far the worst, but we have the worst murder rate is found in Jamaica. The Caribbean stands out as one of the most violent regions in the Americas, registering some of the worst murder rates in the continent. The Caribbean basin is also famously known for harboring billions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. They go into the tax stuff, of course. So we look at DR, Bahamas, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Barbados, Jamaica. Homicide rate. That's the homicide count, homicide rate, property crime. Puerto Rico, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Bahamas, Eastern Caribbean, and money laundering, tax haven, cybercrime. So yeah. St. Lucia, Eastern Caribbean state with the highest vehicle theft is actually St. Lucia. Vehicle larceny or thefts, Trinidad and Tobago. Vehicle thefts, Puerto Rico. Vehicle thefts, DR. Break-ins, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Bahamas, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Murder rate, Jamaica is number 1. Homicide victims, DR. Then Trinidad, then Haiti. What? Haiti has a less homicide rate than Jamaica? That can't be right. I think I need to look at that again. Because they have Jamaica listed as murder victims in Jamaica. Okay, I think I need to read that one again because that seems a little bit interesting. Money laundering. They have Haiti as number 1 for money laundering. Are you kidding me? What a mess. That's interesting. I'll send you this link. You can go and have a look for yourself and see where they're pulling their data from. So Eastern Caribbean state with the highest robbery rate is St. Lucia. Caribbean territory most prone to financial secrecy. Thank God it's not the Cayman Islands, it's actually TCI. Oh, we are number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the list for that one. But I'll send you this. This is from statistica.com. Some key figures for the Caribbean. So there's a link for that. But the point again is here we are celebrating Emancipation Day, and we don't celebrate it at all. I'm just saying, may have it make sense because it's not making any sense to me right now. All right, so let's see what Renee has up about it in the article. Well, not very much. Who's still celebrating Emancipation Day, by the way? Jamaica celebrates it. Who else? So they already have a message up from their prime minister. Mm-hmm. Who else is celebrated? So we have it in all the Caribbean countries. They don't even have Cayman on this list, but I'm sure we're on it. It says August 1st, we've got Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla. Let me get it right because Soka's going to message me. The Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bermuda, BVI, Canada, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and Grenadines, South Africa. We're not even listed on this list of people who supposedly, I guess, observe it because I guess we don't anymore, which to me was something shocking to find out. We've not observed it since 1961. Well, can somebody tell me why? I mean, the whitewashing of our history is interesting, but this takes it to a whole other level. So yeah, we're not listed on here at all. Huh, what a hot mess. Jonathan says just because they took off the chains doesn't mean that they freed us. Well, yes, because they might have taken off physical chains, but there are lots of other chains that remain. Damien says debt is also slavery. Natasha says until American enslavers stop whitewashing slavery and teach it correctly, the strive between the races will prevail. The hatred and fear you sometimes hear in the speech of Black Americans is scary. It is like they're still living slavery. It will take centuries for them to move forward. And like I said, if that type of a traumatic experience, which endured for hundreds of years, has an impact on the very DNA of your offspring, I don't even know how you come out of that situation, because I don't think that there's been anything like it ever in history that you could use as an example for, okay, this is how you overcome such a situation. Good morning, caller. Caller, wake up now. You're live.
I wasn't hearing you. It sounds like some clicking was going on.
You're here. Live and
but
direct.
Anyhow, morning. I find it amazing because our history is we like to whitewash things. I give you a perfect example. We claim that we now have a parliament. And of course, I hold the view that nothing of the sort is the case. The parliament is a sovereign legislative body. What we have is a legislative assembly, which is a subordinate legislative body. But it makes some people feel good. The only problem is that when you engage in that kind of acrobatics, which I can comprehend, but a lot of people can't, things get more confusing. And the reality gets more obscure. And what you're describing essentially is why is it that you're finding out that things are quite what we're being told they are? Why? The same practice continues because the same people are in control.
I mean, did you know that we
Or-
didn't celebrate Emancipation Day since 1961? Is that something that you knew?
Yes. And I also knew about the treaty of 1670. Yes, that was an oversight on the part of the British. They were like, oops, we didn't legally do this thing correct. So they corrected it.
Wow.
But the point that I'm trying to get at is that if the same people are in charge, why would the imperial master celebrate something that they dislike? Tony Blair, Tony Blair has a history of slave money in his family as an inheritance. We have Caymanians worshiping the ground that slave masters walk on. And the system that enslaved them, they hold on to. Sometimes I think to myself, I live in an alternate universe.
Well, sometimes
Because
I know
the reality just terrifies me when I think about the things that people hold dear to them ignorantly. I'll give you an example. If you read Article 73 of the UN Charter, it talks about the imperial powers recognizing that what they are supposed to be looking out for is the best interests of the inhabitants of the respective colonies. The word colony isn't used there, but that's what it means. Yet, in the Cayman Islands Constitution Order, which shouldn't be confused with the Cayman Constitution, this is the UK's constitution for Cayman. Better way to understand it. In section 31, subsection 3, it says that the interests of the UK is paramount. So why does their obligation in international law conflict with their constitution for us? Where in international law, they're obligated to look out for our interests. Yet in the constitution they made for Cayman, they're looking out for their own interests. And we just think, oh, that's the way it is. No, you get out of slavery by your slave master saying, I'm just going to give up all of this greatness. It benefits them to have us at a disadvantage. And the longer we hang on to this colonial system, the further behind we're going to become as a people. Let me know what the unfortunate reality is, though. Politically and otherwise, we're ill prepared for the moment that we need to act, which is now. That's the unfortunate reality. But the question is, who is ever prepared for disasters that they find themselves in?
Well, when you see it coming, I guess you should be. So,
well,
Anthony,
you should be, but
Anthony's trying to share a link with us that says announcements, Emancipation Day, but that link doesn't work. So I don't know what that link is supposed to be. Is that it says sena.gov.ky. So is that some sort of an announcement from government about Emancipation Day? I mean, the rest of the region, Denny, does seem to be announcing or celebrating or commemorating or something. They're saying something about Emancipation Day. I see that even in Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister, what's his name again? Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, yes. He says, today we acknowledge the painful history of slavery in Canada. We also celebrate the strength of Black communities who fought and continue to fight for justice and equality. Together, let's keep building a more inclusive Canada. So that was his Emancipation Day Twitter message. And someone just sent me a link to say, you know, a lot of regional Caribbean leaders focus on significance of Emancipation Day. Someone else says, only when we discovered alien and then have the same characteristics like white folks, then racism won't be important, because for once they will understand what it means to be Black and fighting for survival, even in this day 2022. Someone says, because Cayman denies that slavery existed, Cayman is all about the whitewashing emphasis on the white, denying the Afrikaners of Cayman. And it is funny because
which blacks are fighting for survival
in Cayman?
Yeah, because it sounds to me like not much fight is going on. That's the problem. That's why the reality that exists.
Yeah.
There's no resistance. It's just submission.
There's so many reasons.
On one point, this point about Jamaica, right? Cayman was administered through the governor of Jamaica, because we didn't have a governor here, right? So for practical purposes, the purpose for which the governor serves was carried out by a Jamaica. But if you look back at how that played out, the reason why you had what was essentially a peaceful revolt at Pedro was due to the frustrations that when Cayman would send stuff to Jamaica for the governor to consider and sign, it would take years sometimes without a response. So many times the local vestrymen just basically, they just went ahead and did it, which was unlawful. Technical, on a very technical level, it was unlawful. But they just went ahead and did it anyhow. And so what had to happen was that had to be, the Queen had to ratify that after the fact. But the point that I want to make here, and not advocating unlawfulness, okay? But the point that I'm making is that had they not done that, we would have been worse off as a country. Because for practical, I mean, there's simple things like, well, we need roads here and we need roads there because of this and that, right? Just like simple practical things couldn't get done. And so, of course, obviously that ended up changing because that was a untenable situation. But the point I'm trying to make is if you don't push, and I mean in a legal sense, and nowadays the rights enshrined in the Constitution allow us to push in lawful ways to advocate for change that we could achieve if, first of all, we understood what we were doing.
All right, Benny, hold still.
And we had the courage to do it.
We've got radio listeners. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning into Bobo 89.1. You guys have a fantastic day. And we'll be right back here 7:30 tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.
I was able to get a hold of that link finally. I don't know why it wasn't working directly, but I did find it. And it was published in 2022. And it talks a little bit about Emancipation Day. So this is interesting. And it talks about records of Emancipation Day celebrations in past years. And it says here that one of the earliest records in the National Archive referencing Emancipation Day appeared in the September issue of the Caymanian newspaper of 1909 under the heading of Last Month's Happenings. And this detailed account describes how Emancipation Day was celebrated that year. And it gives a long thing. And then it says that in a 1992 oral history interview, 81-year-old Miss Eula Tatum of Northside, who would have been 110 this coming December, recalled that in Northside, Emancipation Day, as well as Empire Day in May, and then it says, see our Cena post for May, was a regular feature in the calendar of the national holidays in her youth. And Emancipation Day was kept August the 1st, and when the slaves were set free, and of course, we were not slaves, but anyhow, we enjoyed what those that had been, what should I say? We enjoyed with those that had been set free. Why and when Emancipation Day ceased to be observed continues to be unclear. We'll endeavor to discover records which unlock these questions. This is our Cayman Islands National Archive. And they've not been able to uncover that yet. Do we have anybody who would have been alive in 1961 that might know? I think we need some historians now.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you know who we need?
Oh, yes. Now you know.
you know who we need to ask this question?
That's right. That's him.
Shall we try calling him right now?
Yeah, try calling him.
All right, hold on. Did you call me direct?
No.
You're on WhatsApp, so that means I'm gonna have to hang up the call to call him direct. All right, let's try calling none other than Mr. Steve Macfield. Let's see. Let me see. I think I have a number for him. Hold on now. We're going to try to see. He's on our interview list of people, by the way. Steve Macfield. Yes, I've got a number for him. I have a 326 number and a 938. Let's try the 938 first. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but the person you have called is unavailable.
Nope, that one not working. Let's try the other number. It's ringing.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. Mr. Steve?
Hello.
Yes, hi. Morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Sandra Hill. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. I have you on air. We were here talking about Emancipation Day. And someone
Pardon
said
me?
to me, I just have you on the radio right now on our show because we were having a discussion about Emancipation Day. Someone said to me that we stopped celebrating Emancipation Day in 1961, but no one seems to know that we stopped celebrating Emancipation Day in 1961, but no one seems to know why. And of all the people that I could think of that might know anything about this, you came to mind. Do you have any idea about Cayman's celebration of Emancipation Day and why we may have stopped?
We stopped the Emancipation Day because we wanted to portray to the outside people who were bringing money in here and setting up business that there was no slavery here and there was no danger to them, reaction to them of the people that would be prejudiced against them. That's what we did. I was surprised when first time I came back to visit my mom in I think it was 1970. I came back from Canada to visit my mom, and I saw this magazine on Cayman Airways. And it says there was no slavery in Cayman. I was surprised. I was surprised that the magazine, this was a tourist magazine on Cayman Airways, and it says that there were no slavery in Cayman, like other parts of the Caribbean. And that is what they did. They took away that holiday so that the local gentry, the local people would not be embarrassed when people come to see that they were the descendants of slaves, of slave masters.
Oh my gosh.
That is one of the reasons why they did that. because Cayman has always lived under the radar and has always lived in a mythical sphere. They never tell the truth about their history. That way, history is not taught in school because they do not want to face the reality of the past. And that is why people like Roy Borden, myself, and all of those people who try to get history part of the curriculum in school, as a subject that is a must subject and not an alternative, they said no. They said no. And it's because we like other countries, even in the Great America, they try to hide the slavery too. They try to hide the idea of the brutal, one of the greatest crimes, on this planet was what they did. That was the greatest crimes on this planet, what they did to take other people and have them enslaved and work them for 300 and 400 years to make profit for them to build their society. And when you go to Canada, they did the same thing to the Indian people as well. The Pope is out there now apologizing to them, and they're saying that's not enough. So we have never recognized slavery until lately, when Dr. Tedler came and started bringing all the documents back from Jamaica and from the archives there. And then when they got Roy Borden commissioned the book when he was in the government, I think he's commissioned the book Founded Upon the Sea. And by the way, when I heard they were doing that, I didn't put in a bid, but I asked them to consider me. They never considered me to write that. Because I told them, I used it this way. I says, how can Crichton, a foreigner, come to Cayman and explain the nuances or the pleasure of wearing a set of wampers? How can he do that? He never saw wampers being worn. He never wore wampers. He doesn't know anyone from any place that he resided wore those kind of shoes, or so-called shoes. So it needs the local people to write the history of the Cayman Islands, but that will never happen. That will never happen because the brutalness that happened here too will never be told of what they did to a lot of people here in Cayman Islands. And that is why we have the great exodus in 1840. After emancipation, half of the island left and went to the Bay Islands, which was the British colony at the time. They went down there and they lived, because that's why all of those people now have Caymanian names, and most of them are Caymanians down there. Some of them went to Nicaragua, and some went to Honduras. Our family, part of our family went to Nicaragua.
Can I just pause you there for a second? If you don't mind, would it be possible for me to invite you on the program tomorrow? Because we'll still have listeners online, but the radio feed ends exactly at 9:58 in the morning. So the radio listeners are not getting the benefit of hearing your wisdom this morning. I don't know if you're busy tomorrow morning, but if you're not, would I be able to call you back tomorrow morning?
It depends on what time it is, because I get up early around 5:30 to come downtown to go to the radio show for the record, but I'm not. I get tired of doing that now.
Okay. Well, our show starts at 7:30, so you tell me what time works best for you. Anytime between 7:30 and 9:30, I could call.
And I do. Pardon me?
Anytime from 7:30 to 9:30, I could give you a call.
It depends. You have to call me this afternoon.
Okay.
Let me see what I have on my plate.
Let's try to arrange that, because you're saying so much important stuff here, and I don't want our radio listeners, because I know a lot of people are listening on radio as well. I don't want them to miss out on this discussion. So I just want to pause it there. I'll give you a call later on this afternoon to see how your morning tomorrow is kind of fleshing out. But just on a whim, just now, I was speaking to Denny Warren. He was on a call. And I said, I wonder who.
I just want to let you know.
Yes.
I want you to know that some of our cousins are, one is David McFeel, is the ambassador to Jamaica. His David's son, Arterio McFeel, is the ambassador to the Organization of American States. He just resigned from that job because he didn't like the brutality of Ortega and the fact that Ortega, the president of Nicaragua, treatment of people and abuse of their civil rights. He retired from that position. So we went all over the place. We went over the place. We were the first ones who wrote a petition to the Michael and Victoria for to be educated. Where after the Michael Trust minister teacher left Borden Town, because when he came to teach, when Michael Trust sent him here to teach the first public school, 1838. He told him they told him he couldn't teach the black children the way people children together. He offered to have a loft, build a loft in the top and put the black people upstairs, and he would go up there and teach them and come down and teach them. They said no, that they would have to pay shilling of, I think it's 6 pence or a shilling a week, and they just came up from Emancipation. They had no money, and then he walked off the job and left and went back to Jamaica. And that is why the MacTaggers then came here. They brought the MacTaggers here from Scotland then to teach in the Presbyterian Church. And they were and the Pantons and all of those people came as school teachers, teaching in Borden Town and in Prospect. Wow. So our family, the McFields brothers, they couldn't read and write, but they put their X on their petition that they sent off. And so that is one reason why our family is not very popular in Cayman. The teacher McPhee, who was a mouse, even him, who was not aggressive as I am, or Frank, they destroyed him too. They destroyed everybody who wanted to bring up the system and because they thought that we were going to ask them to attune and because we were going to ask for some like today now what they call it reparation. We never wanted to. We wanted to tell the truth about what happened here in this country, and that is why they stopped Emancipation Day, because they said it was Niggers Day. That's what they call it. Was Niggers Day, and that the niggers didn't need to have a holiday.
Wow.
So, anyway.
Well, I'm gonna call you back tomorrow because I think we need to go through this with a little bit further explanation. Of course, you have a wealth of knowledge and information that a lot of us simply we don't even know, and we don't know our history.
Because we don't care. We don't care about our knowledge. We don't care about knowledge. When I first started, money was law was not my first preference. When I first started, I got a graduate fellowship to go into history in the University of British Columbia. I was supposed to be an assistant professor to a guy called A.L. Smith, and I got the graduate fellowship to go into history because all of my courses were history. And I used to work out in the gym with a gentleman named Al Soroka. Al Soroka was an American professor at the law faculty. I used to work out with him, and when he heard that I had gotten a graduate fellowship, he told me, Matthias, he said, don't do it. You never get tenure out here. You'll always be assistant from one to the next of those guys. Take your graduate fellowship and go to law school and hang up your own shingles. That's how I got into law. But my first law was knowledge about the whole thing. When I went to university, when I got a chance to go to university and I saw the 4 floors of books, I would spend days and days there, days and days. I was known to be one of the best researchers in the University of British Columbia. And I came here and I sacrificed all of those years here. The only thing I regret when coming back here that I left my life, my productive life here, and I didn't have any personal satisfaction from it. No personal satisfaction from it. That's why I encourage my son, get the hell out of here as quick as possible. My son is now a professor in medicine, teaching laparoscopic surgery and all that kind of stuff and so forth. And he's on the cutting edge of medicine. That would have never happened to him in Cayman.
Yeah, we can certainly see your passion for history and your love for it. So, all right, Mr. Steve, leave me there, and I will liaise with you a little bit later on. I'm going to give you a call a bit later on in the day, and once you kind of see how your schedule is shaping up, let's do this tomorrow morning because I think it's worth taking some time out of the schedule to talk about Emancipation Day, to talk about the history of slavery in the Cayman Islands. And like I said this morning, there's some serious current day implications of our inability to even acknowledge this part of her history. So I'll give you a call a bit later on today.
Thank you.
All right, my dear. Thanks too.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So we will give Mr. Macfield a call a bit later on, and that's just how it happens on a whim. I was sitting here thinking when Denny said, I said, you know who would know? Right? So let's talk about it tomorrow. This is so interesting. This is open. Child, this is open a whole can of worms now. Everybody else in the world, even Canada, is making announcements today about Emancipation Day. And here we are in the Cayman Islands. Crickets. Where's my cricket button? Child, nothing but crickets around the place. Completely quiet. I think I need to get something where I can actually see these buttons. Anyway, crickets is what it is. This is concerning. Folks, tune in tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. sharp. We're going to try to get him on as early as possible because I could see where this is going to be probably a very full conversation. Yeah? Tune in and we'll learn a little bit of our history. There you have it. Folks, have a blessed day, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning at 7:30.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.